بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد الأمين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us all into this world for a test and a trial, and there are different forms of this test. One of the tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is the test of wealth. And with respect to our wealth, there are different injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding how we earn the wealth and how we spend the wealth and how we fulfill the rights of this wealth. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said on the Day of Judgment, لا تزال قدم عبد يوم القيامة. No person will be allowed to move his feet on the Day of Judgment. حتى يسأل عن أربع, until he answers the questions regarding four important aspects. Number one, عن عمره فيما أفناه. How did you spend your life? Number two, وعن شبابه فيما أبلاه. How did you spend your youth in particular? وعن ماله من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه. Regarding the wealth, how did you acquire it and where did you spend it? وعن علمه ماذا عمل به. And regarding the knowledge of deen, how much knowledge of deen did you acquire and how much of that knowledge that you acquired did you practice upon? In general, we have a very lax attitude regarding the deen, but in particular, even when we do learn about the deen, we limit our learning to the ibadat badaniya, the physical forms of worship. So when it comes to salah, we understand that, okay, I need to find out and learn how to perform salah. Or maybe even if you're not learning how to perform salah, actually, at least if you have a question, do I need to make a sajda sahwa or not? Or do I need to repeat my prayer or not? We do ask and try to find out. Likewise, when it comes to fasting, people are asking questions. Can I take the COVID vaccine while I'm fasting or not? Can I get dental work when I'm fasting or not? People ask questions and try to learn about fasting and so on. The pinnacle of asking questions regarding ibadah is every year in Hajj. The entire Hajj, every single step of the way, everyone is asking questions. Is my ihram correct or not? Is my tawaf correct or not? Is my sa'i correct? Is my rami al-jamarat? Is my wuquf in Arafah, in Muzdalifah, in Mina? And how do I say salam at the Rawdah? So everyone is asking questions and we want to get it right. We have traveled so far to the sacred lands and spent so much money and so much time. We want to ensure our Hajj is acceptable. But when it comes to earning and when it comes to spending, then our attitude, na'udhu billah, may Allah forgive us and guide us, it starts resembling the attitude of Qawm Shu'aib. The Qawm of Shu'aib alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala describes them in the Quran. They were mocking Shu'aib alayhi salam, the Khatib al-Anbiya, and they said to him, قالوا يا شعيب أصلاتك تأمرك أن نترك ما يعبد آباؤنا أو أن نفعل في أموالنا ما نشاء إنك لأنت الحليم الرشيد. O Shu'aib alayhi salam, أصلاتك, perhaps you are performing so much salah, too much ibadah that it is confusing your mind and you have started becoming crazy, and now you think you have the right to tell us. First they talked about the tawheed, but then the second part they said أَن نَفْعَلَ فِي أَمْوَالِنَا مَا نَشَاءُ, that you think somehow you have the right and you have the authority to tell us what we should do with respect to our wealth. نَفْعَلَ فِي أَمْوَالِنَا, our money, and you think you can tell us how to earn it and how to spend it. So this is, na'udhu billah, the attitude of the destroyed nation, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His adab upon them. So there is no aspect of our life which is outside the jurisdiction of our deen, because our deen of Islam is a complete way of life that governs every aspect of our life, with respect to earning, with respect to spending. We do not have a time to go into the fiqh of earning, fiqh of spending. But this is, since we're talking about zakat, which is a financial ibadah, which is an ibadah with respect to the wealth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, that we have to discharge as a pillar of our deen. I just wanted to use this opportunity to remind everyone that just like we are concerned about the validity of our salat and Sawm and Hajj, let us also be concerned about our earning. Is our earning completely halal or not? And also our spending, is it halal or not? How sad would it be if we are abstaining from the halal food and drink all day when we are fasting, but when we make iftar, we are breaking our fast with the haram food. And the haram food could be of two ways. One is that a person may have the 100% halal income, but he buys that which is haram, and he consumes that which is haram, and he loses the thawab of his fast. The other is that he buys something which is 100% halal, but his income itself is haram. So that would again be haram. The only option is that the income is 100% halal, and that which is purchased with that income is also 100% halal. And then when the fast is broken with that, inshaAllah, the fast will be rewarded. That is why the scholars of tafsir say that in that well-known passage that we keep on hearing about during this month of Ramadan, in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the second juz, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. Keeps on going. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. So we hear these ayat in the tafsir of these ayat in the Jummah khutbahs and in the different programs throughout the month of Ramadan. And if we are paying attention, we should perhaps memorize these ayat by now. But at the end of this passage, this ruku' in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتُضْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِّنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about eating halal food and abstaining from haram. And the scholars mention, the reason this is mentioned here is to remind us that you are abstaining from food and drink throughout the day, but ensure what you make iftar on is halal. Otherwise you will lose your thawab. Moving forward with the fiqh of zakat, the biggest portion of this every year is the Q&A. So based on past experience, inshallah, I'm going to try to go faster through this and not spend too much time, and then give more opportunity for you to ask your questions. And also try to wrap it up within acceptable amount of time, not to extend it too long. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What is zakat? Every word in the Arabic language, in the fiqh terminology, it has a ma'na al-lughawi and a ma'na al-istilahi. The ma'na al-lughawi is the literal meaning of the word in the dictionary, and the ma'na al-istilahi is the terminological definition of that term in the context of the Sharia. So zakat in the language, in the dictionary, it has these meanings of purity, praise, growth and blessing. These are different meanings that zakat has. You can see this in effect when it comes to purification of the heart. For example, it comes from the same root word, tazkiyah. Tazkiyatun comes from you see the za, kaf, tazkiyah. And Allama Qurtubi rahmatullahi in his tafsir, he mentions يقول العرب زكاة الزرع إذا نما. The Arabs, they say zakat zar'u. The crops have zakah. What is zakah with respect to the crops? The growth of the crops. When the crops in the field are growing, the verb used is zakah. So growth is zakat. And in Islamic law, هي تمليك بعض مال جزما عينه شارع لفقير مسلم لله تعالى. To give a fixed amount of specified wealth to a needy Muslim for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. Now, what is the fixed amount? Right, so this is the rate of the zakat. The fixed amount, as is going to come, is 1 out of 40, 1/40th or 2.5%. A specified wealth. So all the wealth is not zakatable. There are zakatable assets and then there are non-zakatable assets, which will be defined as we come to those slides. So it's not, that's why it says تَمْلِكُ بَعْضِ مَالٍ, some of the wealth. So if a person has, for example, a house, he doesn't have to give 2.5% of his house away, or the value of his house. If he has a bank account, he has to give 2.5% of that bank account, the money in the bank account. So some are zakatable assets, some are non-zakatable assets. That's why it says specified wealth. And it says to give. Now, this is a very important thing. This is called tamliq. That the recipient, who is an eligible recipient, the zakat money should enter into their possession. You have to give it to them. You have to give the zakat money to the needy recipient. And if somebody says that, how is that a big deal? That's pretty obvious. Who else are you going to give the money to? You're going to give it to the poor person. Right? But it unfortunately is not such a simple thing anymore. And there's a lot of confusion and mistakes made in this regard. Because sometimes we just look at the overall picture and the objective, and we think it is a very good cause, and it most definitely may be a good cause, or not maybe a good cause, it is a good cause. But the needy recipient, it is not entering into his possession. It is a public project, or it may belong to someone else. So the zakat will not be discharged. An example of that is I was involved with one masjid where they had very good intention, and in their social services department, when they were collecting zakat money, they were concerned that the needy recipients, they may be misusing the funds. And this was their concern, which may be a valid concern with respect to certain individuals. They will take the zakat money and they may spend it on haram things, on alcohol or drugs or something else. So to avoid that, they said, let us do something to ensure the zakat money is used in rightful, legitimate causes and venues. So what they said is to the needy people that if you want to come and collect zakat money, then you should bring your eviction notice from your landlord, for example, or your Nicor gas or ComEd disconnection notice for non-payment of last 6 months' bill, things of that nature. And when they will prove it with their name, and then they bring their ID, and they show that, this is the person on this bill, this is who I am, I'm the same person, and the money they were thinking they're being safe in not giving the needy recipient the money, and they would be writing the zakat check directly to Nicor gas, to ComEd, to mashallah rich landlords. And it never entered the possession of the needy person. He was never granted ownership of the wealth, not even momentarily. So what happened is, the zakat money is given to other people who are not eligible recipients, not eligible on many accounts, not eligible from the perspective that they're not Muslim. One of the conditions to be an eligible recipient is to have Islam, to be Muslim, because zakat is only farad on Muslims to give, and it is only permissible for Muslims to receive. Non-Muslims is not only that they cannot receive zakat, they don't even give zakat. All right, so it goes both ways. And sadaqah and charity, nafal charity, non-Muslims can give and non-Muslims can receive as well. Non-Muslims have no restrictions when it comes to receiving nafal sadaqah. Right? Fundamentally, we need to understand that those financial contributions which are made for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fall into two broad categories. One are as-sadaqat al-wajibah and one is as-sadaqat al-nafila. As-sadaqat al-wajibah are mandatory, compulsory forms of charity, right? And as-sadaqat al-nafila are nafal, voluntary. Just like we have salah, farad salah and nafal salah. Now, I call both as-sadaqat. There is confusion amongst the people how these terms are used, because in different areas, different words are used. Sometimes the people, they think that if you use the word sadaqah, then that's automatically nafal. And if you use the word zakat, it's farad. That's true, but it's not 100% true. Zakat definitely is farad, but sadaqah is a general term, can be used for both. That's why there's a sadaqah al-wajiba and there's a sadaqah an-nafila. Wajib sadaqah and nafil sadaqah. Now, what are as-sadaqat al-wajiba? As-sadaqat al-wajiba are the compulsory ones. And under as-sadaqat al-wajiba, the biggest chunk, like 95% of it, 98% of it is going to be your zakatul mal, which is 2.5% of your savings annually. But there are other forms of sadaqat wajiba other than zakat. And amongst them is your zakatul fitr or sadaqatul fitr. The terms are both used. That we have to discharge before Eid, that's coming up. So that is also wajib. We have to discharge it on behalf of every male and female, young and old, as long as the baby was born before the dawn on Eid day. If the baby was born after dawn on Eid day, then there is not wajib to discharge. But if the baby was born before the dawn, the time of birth is before Fajr, entrance of Fajr time. Not sun's rise, but entrance of Fajr time. Then the Sadaqatul Fitr or Zakatul Fitr is wajib upon that baby. And as long as the person is alive, no matter how old they are, every individual of the entire family, Zakatul Fitr is wajib upon the head of the household. So that's one, that's wajib. What else is wajib? Is the udhiyah that is given, right? Since we spoke about Eid al-Fitr, in Eid al-Adha, the Qurbani, the Eid al-Adha, that is money that has to be given to buy the animal. What else is wajib? Is that there are a whole host of kafarat and different types of penalties for different sins that may be committed, that have to be atoned with financial payments. Whether it is an oath a person took, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما عقدتم الأيمان. If a person took an oath and he lied, and he did not fulfill his oath, he said, Wallahi, I promise I will donate this sum of money. Wallahi, I will do this. Wallahi, I will do that. And then he does not fulfill his oath. فَكَفَارَتُهُ إِطْعَامُ عَشَرَةِ مَسَاكِينَ مِنْ أَوْسَطِ مَا تُطْعِمُونَ أَهْلِيكُمْ. This is right in the Quran. The kafara for it, he has to feed 10 people. Many people, they think that when you take an oath and you don't fulfill your oath, you just have to fast 3 days. Many people have no understanding. And then those who have the understanding, unfortunately, many times have the wrong understanding. So there's lack of information or misinformation. So the new generation has lack of information, the old generation has misinformation. Very few have the right information. New generation, if you tell them what's the kafara for taking oath, they're like, we never heard of such a thing. And the old generation, if you ask them, particularly the women I've come across in Indo-Pak subcontinent, they're taking oaths a lot of times. Qasam, fulan, qasam this. And then they'll say, oh, you have to fast 3 days. The problem is that's again partially true, not 100% true. Because the Quran says, فَكَفَارَتُهُ, the kafara is إِطْعَامُ عَشَرَةِ مَسَاكِينَ, to feed 10 miskin. مِنْ أَوْسَطِ مَا تُطْعِمُونَ أَهْلِيكُمْ, an average meal that you feed your family. أَوْ كِسْوَتُهُمْ. Second option is you may clothe 10 people. أَوْ تَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ, or you may free a slave. So there's options 1, 2, and 3. Then Allah Ta'ala says, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ, if you have no money, to feed 10 people, it's about, even if you take $7, $8 meal, and 10 people, $80. If you don't have $80, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ, he has no money or she has no money, then Allah says, فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ, then only you can fast 3 days. ذَلِكَ كَفَارَةُ أَيْمَانِكُمْ إِذَا حَلَفْتُمْ. This is the kafara for your oaths if you took an oath and did not fulfill it. وَاحْفَظُوا أَيْمَانَكُمْ, and be careful and guard your oaths. So anyway, this is one of the sadaqat wajibah. Another one wajib is if a person intentionally broke a fast, and then he has a penalty of fasting 60 days. But then if he reaches old age, he cannot fast 60 days. Then he feeds 60 miskin. Likewise, a person who is terminally ill and has no hope of recovery from the sickness. So for every single day they miss a fast, they have to give the kafara, the fidya for that. What's the fidya? The fidya is one Sadaqatul Fitr amount, $7. And that $7 is derived how? Because there is a particular unit of measurement known as a sa' in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So with respect to wheat, it's half sa' of wheat, and we take the market value, the retail value of wheat, and it's calculated every year. It's $7 this year. So $7. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Those who are sick and cannot fast, they will have to give the fidya ta'am miskin. But we have to be aware of this as well. There was a flyer rotating around on WhatsApp. Someone sent it to me as well. An organization is saying, we are the only organization in Chicagoland that is taking care of if you're fasting and it just says, subhanAllah, if you can't fast, since I'm speaking about a particular organization, let me be very precise exactly what it says. Subhanallah. Yes. I wonder if I can show it on here. Wallahu alam. But it says here, in the flyer it says, missed or could not fast. Fidya $7 per day to feed the local Chicagoland homeless. Pay your fidya at this website. So this is highly misleading. Highly misleading. Because it says missed or couldn't fast. Just pay. Now the thing is, if you just couldn't fast and you missed your fast, there's so many different categories of people who missed their fast. Different categories of people who couldn't fast. If a woman couldn't fast because she's on her period, does she pay for that? $0. She has to make qada. If a woman couldn't fast because she's postnatal bleeding after delivery, does she have to pay? $0. A person is sick and couldn't fast and he's going to recover from his health, he has to make qada as well. $0. If a person made a mistake, khata in his fast, like he ate past the suhoor time, or he made his iftar before the iftar time because he looked on the wrong date on the calendar or the clock wasn't right, there was a khata. He has to make qada, no money, no fidya for that. So if a person ended up eating or drinking by forgetting, there's again no payment for that. In fact, there's no qada for in that scenario as well. If someone missed their fast because they were traveling, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. There's no payment for that. You just have to make qada afterwards. So it just says, if you couldn't fast or you missed your fast, then give us our money. So this is the problem on the collection side. What's the problem? Okay, then who is supposed to pay anyway? The only people who are supposed to pay are those who are terminally ill or nearing death. So there is no strong chance for them to wait for regaining their health to make up the qada. Right? Since maybe someone's like on an insulin pump and he has type 1 diabetes, so juvenile diabetes. Now, he's not going to be able to fast now and perhaps later until there's some cure, right? So, or somebody who is on his deathbed. If somebody is sick, if somebody has COVID, if somebody has any fever, they can't fast, are they going to just start paying? Take out the checkbook, write a check and not? No, you have to make qada when you regain health. If you're not going to regain health, most likely you're on your way out dying or you have a terminal sickness, only then you pay. And on the giving end, is this sadaqat wajiba or nafila? It's wajiba. So if there's wajiba, then there are all the restrictions on where it can be spent. You can't just give it to any homeless people. Because are the homeless people Muslim or not? Doesn't mention that it's being given to zakat eligible recipients. So this is the problem. Now, all the sadaqat wajiba, it has the restrictions on who it can be spent. And the sadaqat nafila is everything beyond what we had mentioned, other than what we have mentioned. So if it's not zakatul mal, it's not sadaqatul fitr, it's not a fidya, it's not a kafara, you're just giving it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that fall under? Nafila. Now the nafila could be a masjid donation, could be a lillah, could be sadaqah nafila. There are no restrictions on spending that. The sadaqah nafila can be given to Muslims, can be given to non-Muslims, can be given to the one who is below the threshold of nisab, who's a faqir, can be given to a ghani, the person who is rich, can be given in salaries, can be given to the Banu Hashim, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, can be given to one's spouse and parents and children and relatives. There's no restrictions. What defines it as a sadaqah nafila? The definition of sadaqah nafila is any money you are giving and your intention by spending this money is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're giving the money to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's a sadaqah nafila. Now the term sadaqah in the Desi mind's concept is something which is only for poor people, right? So we are broadening it when it comes to zakat, we're spending it in non-zakatable places. And the sadaqah which Allah has made it broad, we are narrowing it down. So when I mentioned you can give sadaqah to all these categories, you might have said, fine, giving to Muslim, non-Muslim. Okay, if there's an interfaith event and it requires, we're going to serve snacks to the interfaith guests. If somebody, can you give them sadaqah money? Somebody will say, no, you can't give them sadaqah, they're non-Muslims, they're rich people. Okay, so then think about it the other way. Come at it from another angle. If you're raising funds here and you're giving and you have a budget required for this event where you have invited the non-Muslims to see the masjid and you're going to feed them because you're going to provide them a brunch or something. So if somebody's giving money for that, why is he giving money? What's his intention? So to give da'wah towards Islam, to invite them towards Islam, right? That's his intention. His intention is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is he investing in his own 401k? No, this is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are you going to call that? Is it zakat? It's not zakat. Then what is it? It's sadaqah. So anything which is given, see, because in our mind we have restricted it. We think sadaqah is only for like the refugees, only for the people in the camps. Sadaqah is for them too, but this is also sadaqah. I started with the non-Muslims, and then let's come to ourselves. Seriously, to ourselves. If somebody is sponsoring an iftar in the masjid, and people are eating iftar, what is his intention? Why is he sponsoring iftar? Is his name on a banner here? This iftar is sponsored by, then you'll say he's doing it for the announcement. No. Is there a plaque here? No. They're not even recognized. Their name is not even taken. We just make dua, oh Allah, reward all those who sponsored. Why is he sponsoring it? Because for the sake of Allah. So that money that he gives to sponsor an iftar, what are you going to call it then? Is it sadaqat? It's only two categories, sadaqat wajiba and sadaqat nafila. Is it wajiba? No. Is it nafila? Yeah. So the one who's giving is giving sadaqah, the one who's eating it is eating sadaqah. So all of us, whoever is eating it is eating sadaqah. So does that mean it's haram? It's not haram. Why is it not haram? Because it's sadaqah nafila. You understand? So the zakat which is limited, we have broadened it. And the sadaqah which is broad, we have limited it. You see what's happening? I was thinking to myself that, we can tell other people, go listen to the every year's recording because it's the same stuff. But actually I didn't touch on this before, this part. And so this is it would make my job easier, everyone's job easier. Let's go listen to the recordings previous years. But yeah, this is one aspect of what is the true meaning of sadaqah. Nafila and sadaqah wajiba. So all the restrictions are for wajiba, there's no restrictions on nafila. I think that is clear. Next is, where is zakat established? We can go through this quicker. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. To zakah is an imperative verb, fi'al amr, which means it's wajib, it's an obligation. The sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there as well. It's proven from the sunnah. Sunnah means it's proven from the hadith. And, it is proven from the sunnah. It's not sunnah to give zakat. Is it sunnah to give zakat or is it farad to give zakat? It's farad to give zakat, but it's proven from the sunnah. These are the evidences of the sharia. Quran, sunnah, ijma', qiyas. So Quran is the book of Allah, sunnah, the words of Rasulullah, the actions of Rasulullah, the affirmations of Rasulullah. And then you have ijma' is the consensus of the scholars of the ummah, and qiyas is the legal analogy. So from the sunnah it is, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ افْتَرَضَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَدَقَةً. Allah has made a farad upon them, صَدَقَةً فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ. See, in this hadith, the word sadaqah is used. And it says iftarada is used. So iftarada means it's farad. The sadaqah is farad. Wait a second, I thought sadaqah is nafal. What did we cover? Sadaqah is both. Sadaqah nafila and sadaqah wajibah. في أموالهم تؤخذ من أغنيائهم فترد في فقرائهم. Sahih al-Bukhari. This him is important, that it should be taken from the wealthy amongst them and should be returned back to the poor amongst them. That is why the scholars say, ideally, in every locality, if there are poor people, then the zakat from the rich of that locality should be spent on the poor of that locality. And first, and after all the needs of the poor of that locality are fulfilled, then the zakat should be sent to poor of other localities. Why do we give zakat? Starting from on the top, it is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It purifies the soul from greed and wealth from impurity. This is a link between the literal meaning and the linguistic meaning and the sharia meaning. So there's two types of purity: purifying the heart from greed and purifying the wealth from impurity, both. Promotes circulation of wealth. It is the right of the needy, bridges the gap between the affluent and needy, reduces inequality. Basically, if the zakat, the Muslims would discharge the zakat, then this would be, it sounds very childish and idealistic and naive to say end of world poverty, right? This is like young children, they have these ideals that we'll end world poverty, global poverty, but it can be ended. There's no need for the World Bank or IMF or poverty in the third world nations. There would be absolute eradication of complete poverty. And this has happened. In the time of Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullah alayhi, the scholars were invited and they had Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahmatullah alayhi, the Khalifa, he made mushawara with them, what should we do? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the masarif and the eligible recipients of zakah in Surah At-Tawbah, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. These are the categories that we're going to come to, that the zakat can be given to them. So he said, there is no faqir left in the entire kingdom. There is no miskin left in the entire kingdom. Now, if there is no one receiving, that means everyone is giving. So we have the people are just giving. Everyone is giving the zakat and there's no one receiving the zakat. So what should we do? So how is this zakat going to be discharged when there's no one left to take? So then they said that there's one category left here in this ayah, which is still there. It says وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. It was available then, it's not available anymore. فِي الرِّقَابِ means to free the slaves. So we do not have, there's no slavery anymore. So they said that the zakat money should be used in freeing the slaves. SubhanAllah. So eradication of poverty. What are some virtues and admonitions? See, there are two things, Bashiran wa Nadhira. The Prophet ﷺ brought glad tidings and warnings. So there are virtues and there are admonitions. And these are in fact ayats of the Quran. These are only Quranic ayat mentioned here. If you start on the right, those who spend their wealth in Allah's way by night and by day, secretly and publicly. الَّذِينَ يَنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, in the night and in the day. سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيًا, secretly and publicly. فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, they will have the reward with their Lord. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, they will have no fear, nor will they grieve. Khawf is regarding the future, no fear regarding the future. وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, no grief regarding the past. One thing interesting here is سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً, secretly and publicly. So, when is it more rewarding to give it secretly? When is it more rewarding to give it publicly? When you're giving to a particular individual who is a needy individual and you want to hide the identity of the recipient, it's more rewarding to give it secretly. Because if there's Zayd, Amr and Bakr praying Salah in the Saf, Does everyone know about the financial crisis at his home? No. And does anyone know that he has taken all these big loans because of some crisis? No. So you don't have to announce it that I'm giving zakat to Zayd. So everyone should know about it. But on the other hand, the fact that, the parking lot, like yesterday we were speaking about the parking lot needs to be redone, resurfaced, and striping has to be done because of all the holes in the parking lot from the construction dumper, the trucks, the concrete trucks were destroying it during 2 years, and now it has to be redone. The resurfacing of the whole parking lot and the striping is $200,000. Now everyone who is driving through, they can see the bumps, they can see the holes. Is it a hidden fact or is it a known fact? It's a known fact. So when there's a call to donate to a public cause, in this scenario, you don't have to be secret about it, you can publicly give. Because you don't have to hide the identity of the recipient. So you're okay from the recipient side. What would be the reason to give it publicly? The reason to give it publicly is it's a very fine line. The intention would be what? To encourage others to give as well. But in a millisecond, the intention could change to showing off one's own contribution to receive praise of people and to earn their respect. If that is the case, خلاص وقدمنا إلى ما عملوا من عمل فجعلناه هباء منثورا, all the reward goes down the drain. But if the intention is so I can give and I can encourage others to give, then Allah Ta'ala says sirran wa alaniyatan, publicly you can give. So there is evidence for giving publicly, for public causes. The middle one, next one, and those who hoard gold and silver, وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَها فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, they do not spend in the path of Allah. فَبَشِّرْهُم بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, give them the tidings of a painful punishment. يَوْمَ يَحْمَى عَلَيْهَا فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمْ, that day it'll be heated in the fire of Jahannam. فَتُكْوَى بِهَا جِبَاهُهُم وَجُنُوبُهُم وَظُهُورُهُم, and it'll be seared on it'll be branded on their foreheads and their flanks and their backs. And it will be said to them, هَذَا مَا كَنَزْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, this is what you hoarded for yourself. فَذُوقُوا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْنِزُونَ, taste that which you used to hoard. This is an adab for not discharging the zakat. The foreheads are mentioned, then the flanks and the backs. The scholars mention when a person would come to ask for zakat money, they would frown with their forehead. That is why it will be branded first. Then they'll turn 90 degrees and show their sides. That's the flank, junubuhum, and then they would turn their back 180 degrees. That is why their backs will be branded. Then the third ayah is Allah destroys interest, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَا وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ, and gives increase for charities. وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ كَفَّارٍ أَثِيمٍ, Allah does not like every sinning disbeliever. Over here, the question comes that if I have $100 and I give $10 in charity, I have 90 left. If I have $100 and I have a 10% interest loan, then I get back $110. So is $110 more or $90 more? $110 is greater than $90. Why did Allah Ta'ala say that increase in charity and destruction in interest? So this defies logic. The problem with the logic is that our measurement of wealth is incorrect. Our standard of measuring wealth is by quantifying it. And definitely, if you quantify it, then 110 is greater than 90. There's no problem in saying that. Because the Quran is not against our logic, not against it's very rational. It's the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is rational, He's the Hakim, the source of all wisdom. How can He say something irrational? The problem is, 110 is greater than 90. If you quantify it in numbers. But the true measure of wealth is not by quantifying it. Rather, the true measure of wealth is in the comfort, the happiness, the peace of mind, the satisfaction that is derived from the wealth. That is the true measure of wealth. How much happiness does it give you? How much satisfaction does it give you? How much contentment? How much peace of mind? What Allah is saying in this ayah is the peace of mind and the comfort and the satisfaction from the $90 will be much greater than that from the 110. The 110 will have attached with it miseries, calamities, anxieties, worries, depression, problems. And this is the true measure of wealth. Because what is the object of the wealth? You don't eat the money, you don't sleep on the money, right? What's the purpose? The purpose of the wealth is you buy things with the wealth. You buy the car, the home, the clothes, furniture, jewelry, whatever you like. You buy things. And what's the purpose of those things that you buy with the wealth? To gain that happiness and fulfill your needs beyond the needs, desires, and luxuries. And what's the purpose of all these things? To be happy. So that happiness that you're looking for, Allah Ta'ala is saying, you will find it in that 90. More than you'll find in the 110. Simple as that. So I remember if you explain it like this, it's so much, it makes so much more sense. And sometimes we present the deen in such a wrong manner, we make people deny the deen. One place I was attending many years ago as a student, one person was speaking and he was saying that he didn't use, I don't know if he used 110 and 90, this is a simple round number I came up with, but he gave some example and he was saying that, what do you guys say? He was asking the crowd, with respect to my numbers that I just gave, is 90 more or 110? So everyone was saying, that's like kindergarten, maybe first grade level math, 110 is greater than 90. He said, wrong. Your math is wrong. Your logic is wrong. The Quran is right. Allah Ta'ala says that this 90 is greater than 110. But you're not saying in which perspective. You're just saying 90 is greater than 110. And lanat on all the math. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Why are you creating a war between Allah and math when there is no war between Allah and math? It's just astaghfirullah. So everyone's like, oh my God, so the Quran is anti-math. That's what I learned from this lecture today. Okay, the next one. The example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain which grows 7 spikes, and each spike is 100 grains. There's math again. Now we have to do 7 times 100, 700. And Allah multiplies reward from whom He wills. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل. 7 spikes. في كل سنبلة 100 حبة, 100 grains. So 700 times. This 7, by the way, in Arabic language means many, many times. 7, 70, 700. It all means a lot of times. Just like you tell your kid, like, I told you to finish your homework. Did you finish your homework? He says, no, I didn't do it yet. I told you 100 times. So did you actually tell him 100 times? Maybe told him 5 times. 5 times is, maybe brother said 100 times. Really. But most of us, we don't reach 100 times. You're not going to tell him 100 times, say the tasbih 100 times. Do your homework, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. You said it 5 times, that's enough. 1 time should be enough. But, so we say, I told you 100 times. So this is what 7 is in the Arabic language. Okay. So what are the conditions for zakat? Since zakat is an obligation of the deen, it's only upon those who fulfill certain sharait. First is Muslimun. This is a shart for any hukum of sharia. And all the ahkam of sharia are only for Muslims. Really? What about non-Muslims? Non-Muslims, there's nothing farad, there's nothing haram. Except for one thing is farad. And that is to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So after they sign up, then the rest of the things become farad. So, how does that make a difference? It does make a difference. Maybe we'll talk about that another day. So first thing is Muslim. It has to be a Muslim for the zakat to be farad. Number 2 is adult, right? So minors, there's no zakat. Muslimun balighun. How does that make a difference for adults is that if there's a child who has zakat, who has money that is put in his account or her account, then there's no zakat that's wajib upon that. So people make mistakes in this regard in 2 different ways. One is, it's not a big deal. They're just giving charity which is not due. And that is, if there's a rich individual or, mashallah, forward-thinking father, and he invests in his children's college education, or otherwise he puts money in the name of his children, or a mother puts gold jewelry in the name of her daughter, and she says, this gold jewelry belongs to this daughter. And this money belongs to this son. So there's tamliq, there's transfer ownership, it actually belongs to this baby now, or this child. So some people, they start giving the zakat. Is it due on them? It's not due on them, because they're minor. If they're giving the zakat, it's going to fall under not sadaqah wajib anymore, sadaqah nafila. So that's not a huge mistake, but it's not zakat. It wasn't wajib, and they're giving something which is not wajib. That's all. But then the next level is, once they become baligh, and they become baligh when they're young. From our modern culture perspective, a girl may be only 10 years old, 11 years old, a boy may be 13 years old, and he becomes baligh. So is he considered an adult in America in our current 2021? In the past, they were, but not anymore. They're still considered like kids. They don't have a driving license, they can't do anything. They're under 18, they're minors according to the law. So now the parents are discharging the zakat on behalf of this, what they consider legally a minor, but Islamically not a minor. This is another discussion, that there is no concept of adolescence in our deen. There's a minor, and then there's baligh, when he hits puberty. When he hits puberty, then all the responsibilities of adults are upon that teenager. I mean, salat is as farad upon him, and Jummah is farad upon him, whether he's at school or not at school, just like upon an adult. And salat, and som, and zakat in this case, everything is farad upon him. Because we treat them like babies, then they remain like babies. And in the past, they were treated as adults, and they were given responsibilities, and they did amazing things. They were teenagers and they conquered nations. Muhammad ibn Qasim and Tariq ibn Ziyad, 17 years old, 19 years old, are conquering whole countries. Right? So now what are they doing? The parents are paying the zakat on behalf of these kids, but they don't even tell the kid. They don't tell the kid. Why don't they tell the kid? Because they don't want the money to get to his head and he start dreaming about all the sport cars he's going to buy and all the lavish haram spending he's going to do with the money. So they don't tell him this money is yours. They don't give the authority of the money to the child, but they have given the ownership of the money to the child, and they're discharging the zakat on behalf of the child. Prior to baligh, it wasn't wajib and they were giving it. Now after baligh, they're still giving it without informing him. But innamal a'malu binniyat. Actions are based upon intentions. So the owner of the wealth, he never made the niyyah to give the zakat of his wealth because he never even knew he had the money. So this amal is again wasted. Why is it wasted? Because the niyyah of the owner of the wealth is not there. So does that mean you have to spill out all your plans to your children and tell them that, this is your annual report of your fund has gone up so much? No, you don't have to tell them everything, but you can tell them that I have set some money aside for you, and this money is in your name for you when you are an adult to use. Do you give me permission to discharge the zakat on your behalf? Without giving the numbers. And obviously if he has any sense, he should say yes. All right? So that's all you need to do. Once he says yes, you can discharge zakat, my zakat, Jazakullahu Khairun, and on top of that, there should be a lot of Jazakullahu Khairun and thank you cards and everything else. But then the niyat is there. Once the niyat is there, then it is permissible to discharge the zakat on behalf of the owner. Right? This is called niyabat, to be a representative. Niyabat is permissible in ibadah maliyah, not permissible in ibadah badaniyah. If there's physical worship, you can't ask somebody to do it on your behalf. Oh, beta, my son, I'm feeling a little bit lazy today, go pray dhuhr on my behalf. Pray your dhuhr, then pray my dhuhr too. You can't do that. All right? The wife can't tell the husband, I'm busy with the kids, you're going to the masjid, pray your dhuhr, pray my dhuhr. Can she tell the husband, pray my dhuhr? All right. But can she say, this is all my gold, can you pay the zakat on my behalf? Yes. So the wife can tell the husband, pay the zakat on my behalf. He doesn't technically have to, because if she is the owner of the gold, she's supposed to give 2.5% of the gold. And then she'll say, what are you talking about? I don't have any cash. My husband doesn't give me money. Maybe she's not working. This particular case. Women work also, they may have money. I'm not saying all women don't have money. I'm just saying in this example. So in this example, if she doesn't have money, she'll say, wow, how are you telling me I have to give my zakat? Well, guess what? It's 2.5 of X. If there is X, there's 2.5 of it. If the X is 0, 2.5 of 0 is 0. So then she said, what in the world are you talking about? You have gold that's past the nisab, yes. So we have to get 2.5% of the gold. How am I going to give the gold? Then maybe it could be an earring or a ring. Oh my God, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Are you saying I should sell my gold? So the thing is, this is the greatest calamity that may fall on us and our women, is if you have to sell gold, right? But if you don't have cash, you have to take out something. Well, they'll say, well, the smallest piece I have is this ring, and the value of this ring is more than 2.5% of my gold. Then fine, sell it, you have the cash, give the cash zakat out, and the rest of it you can save and spend on something else or invest as you please, right? So the wife can tell the husband, no, I don't want to sell my gold, we're not telling the woman, sell your gold. We're saying that it is permissible for the wife to ask the husband, discharge my zakat from your account. So likewise, the children can tell the parents to discharge the zakat. So adult. Number 3, sane. There's not much to say about sane. Aqilun is a shart for every ibadah. One who's insane is forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The technical term for this is marfu anhu al-qalam. Very interesting, beautiful word. Marfu anhu al-qalam. Meaning the pen which writes the sins of the kiramun katibin ya'lamuna ma taf'alun. The pen that's writing the sins, marfu, is uplifted. It's not down, it's not writing. SubhanAllah. Imagine how the imagery of this word. The pen is uplifted. So that reminds us that our pen definitely is not uplifted. Everyone sitting here is aqil. So that pen is down and it's pretty busy. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us. And then we have owner and possessor of wealth equaling nisab. This is a big one, that there is a set standard. In the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there was a nisab for gold and a nisab for silver. The nisab for gold is 20 dinars, 20 gold coins. And the nisab for silver is 200 dirhams. 200 dirhams. So we hear these terms, dinars and dirhams, right? Dinars are gold coins and dirhams are silver coins. So 20 dinar and 200 dirhams. So what does that mean for us today? How many grams is that? It's going to come in the next slides. So if a person has gold or silver equaling to nisab, or if he has money, dollars and cents, which equals the nisab. And a person has to own the nisab amount after a lunar year. This is a very, very confusing point for people. So people think that, first of all, this is the word lunar, right? So it's not based on the solar year, not the Gregorian calendar, it's a lunar calendar. So that makes a difference, because the lunar calendar is shorter than the Gregorian calendar, the solar calendar. The solar calendar, the days, the months are 30 and 31 days. In the lunar calendar, they're 29 or 30 days, with the exception of February, of course, and the leap year. But generally, we have 30 and 31 days versus 29 and 30 days. So the lunar year is shorter. If you're giving it, if somebody's giving their zakat, mashallah, everyone has their New Year resolutions and brand new year. He gives his zakat on New Year's Day every year. All right? January 1st, he discharges zakat religiously. Then he's doing a irreligious practice. Why? Because he's going to miss a zakat payment. After a few years, he will miss the payment. So you have to choose a Islamic date, right? So you can give it Ramadan first, Ramadan 10th, right? Ramadan, any date in Ramadan would be ideal. It doesn't have to be Ramadan. It could be throughout the year. But it's a no-brainer to do it in Ramadan. Why? Because it's an amazing, unbeatable deal. We have the buy one, get one free, buy one, get two free. How about buy one, get 70 free? Man adda faridatan fi kana kaman adda 70 faridatan fi ma siwa. You get the reward of 70 times. So why would you give your zakat in Muharram or Rabiul Awwal or Zul Qa'dah, Zul Hijjah? You would give it in Ramadan. Or you take it out in Ramadan, and then you can continue dispersing it throughout the year. So owning the nisab amount after a lunar year. So what happens is, when a person starts earning for the first time, and then when he has money that reaches the nisab threshold. The nisab of gold is around $5,000, and the nisab of silver is around $500. We'll come to the exact amount. $560, 5,000 some odd dollars. Rough number is 5,500. So if he starts having savings, right, and now he has savings for the first time in his account that, let's go with the gold standard, exceeds $5,000. He has money in the account. So that day he's supposed to pencil in his diary, or in his Google Calendar nowadays, or whatever calendar he uses. And one lunar year after that day, his zakat is due. Now, throughout the year, whatever fluctuation happened, he does not have to take that into consideration. He might have had more than $5,000, he might have had less than $5,000. He has to be a possessor of a nisab on one due date, and then one lunar year afterwards, he has to be a possessor of nisab on that same date. So, if he became the possessor of nisab for the first time in, for example, the date when he looked on the Islamic calendar, it was Muharram the 10th, Ashura. Well, that's a well-known date. Just to make it more random, we could say maybe Safar the 13th. So Safar the 13th, then he will say the next year Safar the 13th. If he has nisab in his possession, he has to give zakat. Now what happened throughout the year? He might have inherited a lot of money, he might have lost a lot of money. You don't have to worry about any of that. This thing is so simple that people say, no, I probably missed something. That can't be. No, that's exactly how simple it is. Because people say, what about the whole year thing? It doesn't have to remain in your possession for 1 year. No, that's not the case. If that was the case, then if you get your salary on the 15th and the 30th of the month, twice a month you get a salary, and mashallah, you're a wise person, your financial advisor told you that 10% of the money, don't even consider it belongs to you, you earned it, save it for a rainy day in the future. But you weren't able to save 10%, so you save 5%, fine. So 5% of your income, you don't use it, you put it aside from every paycheck, twice a month. So if the requirement was that for you to have to discharge the zakat on the money, that penny and dollar and cent has to remain in your possession for 1 year. That means, when will the 1 year be elapsing? Every 15th and 30th of a month, it would be 1 year for that 5% that you saved from that paycheck. When you saved 5% of your paycheck and you kept it in your savings, right? Then, let's use the paychecks are coming in from the Gregorian calendar. So I'll use Gregorian calendar dates. January 15th paycheck, you saved 5%. January 31st paycheck, you saved 5%. February 15th, February 28th, you saved 5%. So when will 1 year, one solar year in this case, pass on that 5% in your possession? The next year, on January 15th, January 31st, February 15th, February 28th, isn't it? Are you with me? So, if you are supposed to discharge the zakat when the money remains in your possession for a year, you're going to be discharging zakat every 2 weeks. And is that the case? No, you only discharge zakat how many times? Every 2 weeks? Or once a year? It's once a year. So this whole concept that the money has to remain in your possession for a whole year is wrong. So is there a 1 year concept? There is a 1 year concept. But the 1 year is not passing on the money, it's passing on the person. If you are in a position where you are a possessor of nisab, and 1 year later you are also a possessor of nisab, then you have to discharge zakat on whatever money you have. If you have average money, then there's no question, no headache. There's two scenarios where there'll be a question. One is that, okay, he had $5,000 on Ramadan 10th. He discharged 2.5%. Then when a whole year passed, few days before Ramadan 10th, what happens is that he inherits a huge fortune. Or he has a non-zakatable asset turns into a zakatable asset. For example, his house, he liquidates it, he sells it, and he still hasn't bought a new house. So $500,000 non-zakatable asset becomes $500,000 cash. Right? When the zakat due date comes. So does he have to give zakat on this 500,000? Yes. He'll say, it wasn't in my possession. It was in my possession for 4 days. I'm between houses. Yeah, but on your due date, it's in your possession. So you have to give zakat on the entire 500,000. The opposite is true. There's a millionaire, and mashallah, he doesn't have 5,000, he has 5 million. He has 5 million on his zakat date. And then 1 year passes, that 5 million becomes 7 million, 9 million, mashallah, great. But then 1 day, 1 week before his due date, it goes down. He loses everything. Huge loss. Stock market crash, whatever. It could be any type of tragedy. Now what happens is, on his due date, he only has 5,000 left, which is the nisab. How much zakat he has to give on? Just the 5,000. Even though he remained a millionaire the whole year. In fact, if he goes below 5,000, he doesn't even have to give zakat. He doesn't have to give zakat anymore because he doesn't, on the due date, he doesn't have the nisab. So, the fluctuation of the savings throughout the year will not have an effect, with the exception of one condition. And what is that? Even throughout the year, if the savings dip below the nisab, it won't have an effect. The only time the clock is reset is if he actually hits zero and goes beneath zero, negative. Then what will happen is that count of that year will be null and void. And once again, when he starts paying off his debts and gets positive and hits nisab again, then the clock will start ticking and the count for a new year will begin from that time. Let me run a scenario through you to explain this concept. So if somebody had, mashallah, $10,000, the nisab we are assuming is 5,000. So on the due date, he had to give zakat. Then what happened? The months keep on going, rolling by. The 10,000 becomes 100,000, whatever, it goes up and down. Say a good 9 months into the year, such a tragic loss happens that he hits zero, rock bottom. In fact, he goes negative. So those 7 months that went, it's gone. You don't have to worry about them in the count anymore. Then when he starts regaining money, he's 1,000, 2,000, still nothing. When he hits 5,000 the second time, from that date onwards, a new count for a lunar year will begin. That's the only scenario where you have to worry about the fluctuation within the year, if the money goes beneath zero or hits zero. But if otherwise the fluctuation, you don't have to worry about it. Majority of us, inshallah, if it doesn't hit zero, we don't have to worry about it. So this is a very, very big concept, this last one. Owning nisab amount after a lunar year. So what is the gold nisab? For 87.48 grams, all right? The question answer at the end, inshallah. Or is it very... Huh? Who decides the due date? I mentioned this, maybe it wasn't clear. Again, I repeat. The due date is decided by when a person is, for the first time when he starts earning, he reaches nisab. That day when he becomes malik of nisab, $5,000, it's in his possession, he has savings of $5,000, then zakat becomes wajib, the clock starts ticking from that date. Now the thing is, this is for young people. If they're taught in the madrasa zakat, before they earn money, then they're like, oh, that's good. Okay, when I start earning, inshallah, you learn about social security tax, you learn about Medicare tax, you learn about state tax, okay, this is the zakat that I have to give. You learn this as a child. Hey, but we're not children sitting here. So then well, how do we do it? So we have to just, number one, start making tawbah, istighfar, seek Allah's forgiveness. And then we can discharge our zakat in Ramadan and try to calculate for the past years that we earned and we did not give it properly. Try our best to calculate the money we owe and discharge it that way. And give it in Ramadan. Speaking about giving in Ramadan, the one who started earning and for the first time, what if his date is not Ramadan? The chances of it being Ramadan are, 1 out of 12, because 12 months in the year. إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِندَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا. So what about the guy who started earning and has the savings, his nisab in any of the 11 months? So he's going to miss out on the buy one get 70 deal? No, there is a way for him. What can he do? He prepones his zakat the first year and he adjusts it and makes his date in Ramadan, even though it's not wajib. What does that mean? He hit the nisab, he says Safar the 13th. He says, I don't want to give my zakat in Safar every year. I don't want to suffer a loss by giving in Safar. Okay. So then what he does is, so in Safar, after Safar, Rabi' al-Awwal, Haram, Rabi' al-Awwal, Rabi' al-Thani, Jamad al-Ula, Jamad al-Thani, Rajab, Sha'ban, Ramadan. Ramadan is the 7th month. Is the zakat due? It's not due. It's only been 7 months. But what does he say? I'm going to discharge my zakat in Ramadan, even though it's only 7 months. So I'm going to reset my calendar of my due date. So every year I can give it in Ramadan. Instead of on Ramadan 13th, he gives it. So next year, does he have to give in Safar 13th? No, he can give it in Ramadan 13th. So he adjusted his calendar. This is for the one who is, mashallah, your child, inshallah, in the future, or your grandchild. But for yourself, you can start giving it in Ramadan. Does that answer your question? Okay. Ji? Yeah. Yeah, so the previous years, how do you do it? So basically, you have to sit down, take out all, try your best. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ, to the best of your ability. Now literally, you have to try your ultimate best and at the end make tawbah and say, Allah, this is the best I could do. لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah will not take you to account more than what you can bear. So if you make your ultimate extreme effort to go back through your bank accounts, go back through your savings, that as far as the statements that the bank gives you, in paper if you have it, online if they give you, depending on your bank, sometimes they'll give you for 10 years, sometimes they'll give you for less or more. Huh? Yeah, give me another device. Yeah. The online people are asking questions as well, apparently. So then you just, you will have to try your best and see how much was the savings every Ramadan in the past years and give zakat on that. And is it going to be 100%? No, it's not going to be, right? That's where, what's the fail-safe? The fail-safe is called tawbah. Right? The fail-safe is tawbah and istighfar. Try to be as conservative in your estimation as possible. Right? So it's 2.5%. So 97.5% is still for your needs and desires, right? So if you end up giving a little bit more, you might be left with 95%. That's not a bad deal at all, right? Okay. Yeah. Just like if you lost the money the day before. It works both ways. Yeah, so basically, this is the same thing I just covered. He's asking the same thing. If you have a lot of money on your due date that you're going to be dispersing soon, you still give 2.5%. You will have to give 2.4%, and to be fair, if you lost a huge amount of money the day before, you won't have to give zakat on it. It works both ways. But there is one thing, that if there are things that you can deduct. If there's a bill due this month, we're going to come to that if you ever get to it. There are things you can deduct. What I'm saying is, if you have $10 million, doesn't mean you have to give zakat on $10 million, because we didn't talk about things you can deduct. If there are bills that are due this month, you can deduct those bills. So if you are potentially going to spend it and it's not a bill that's due, then you can't deduct it. For example, if there is rent due this month, there are bills due this month for things that you have already used. If you have a credit card payment that's due this month, if you have a house mortgage payment that is due this month, if whatever payments are due this month, you can deduct all of those. And if you owe money to people, because you have the millions, but you owe money because you have taken loans for your business, you have taken loans, you can deduct those, right? It's only debt-free, bill-free savings that you have to give zakat on. So when we cover the liabilities, it will make more sense. It may not be making sense to you now because you don't see all the things that you can deduct as well. Okay. All right, so if there's gold, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, when you give zakat on the current value of the stock. So a lot of these questions will be answered if I actually get through the slides, and then what I don't mention, then how about we ask those at the end? So I'm going to answer, So it's not fair to the online attendees if I don't answer their questions, I only answer those present here. So how about let's not answer anyone's? and then what we'll do is, we'll answer all at the end. Online and on-site. Because a lot of the questions you have is because we haven't gotten through the material yet. So this is the gold nisab, this is the silver nisab. If you possess only gold, use the gold nisab. If you possess only silver, use the silver nisab. If you possess mixed assets, in the past you used to say use the silver because it's lower, right? It's going to be more beneficial for the poor people. But nowadays the scholars say that because the gold price has gone so much higher than the silver price, the value of silver is so low that this becomes very difficult. Because if the silver nisab is $500 and if a person is in possession of the nisab then they have to do a lot of things. Besides zakat, they also have to do the udhiyah qurbani. And the goat may be $300. And the condition of being in possession in nisab for a year doesn't even apply for qurbani, for udhiyah. As long as on Eid day you are in possession of nisab, whether you had it in possession for a year or not, you have to give the goat. It's wajib. It's farad to give a goat. So if a person has $500 and you can tell him to give $300, then he only has $200 left. So that's why the scholars say nowadays it's better we can go with the gold nisab. So with respect to giving and with respect to receiving. So if somebody, his savings, he only has $1,000 in the bank, does that mean that he's very rich? No. So can you give him zakat? If you go with the silver nisab, you can't. If you go with the gold nisab, you can. So therefore, it is safe to go with the gold nisab. Okay. Cycle of calculating zakat. We should go through this because I already explained this. The day you own the nisab amount after deducting your liabilities, then you pencil this Islamic date in your diary. Right? It makes no difference whether the wealth increases or decreases during the course of the year. Didn't we cover this? Yes. 1 lunar year later, if you possess the current nisab amount after deducting liabilities, right? We have to deduct liabilities. On that very same Islamic date, then you pay 2.5% of your wealth as zakat. This process will continue every year unless you have wealth equaling less than the nisab amount on your due date or all of one's wealth is lost. Then the counting of the calendar stops. This slide is covered. So what are zakatable assets? Zakatable assets, gold and silver, you have to give zakat. What does gold and silver mean? It means only gold and silver, not other than gold and silver. So what is not included? What is not included is platinum. What is not included is jewels, diamonds, rubies, emeralds. They have value, right? In our current understanding. From the Sharia perspective, they're rocks. So there's precious rocks, semi-precious rocks, landscaping rocks, right? They're pretty much all rocks. So there's no zakat. Now the thing is, what if you have a business? You buy and sell diamonds. You buy and sell rubies, emeralds. Then there will be zakat on it because that will fall under this number 3, business stock. Okay. But if you have diamond jewelry or you have rubies and pearls, lying around at home in drawers full of rubies and pearls, there's no zakat on that. Of course, if a person is so evil and has khabasa and khabith that instead of keeping money in cash form, he puts it in non-zakatable assets, just to hold on to it so he doesn't have to give zakat, then this is a very low form of thinking and attitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a person, he takes his cash and he just buys rubies and keeps the rubies because there's no zakat on rubies or emeralds. So there is zakat on gold and silver. Gold and silver means also any form or shape, whether it's jewelry or bullion or whether it's coins or wafers or biscuits or bricks or whatever. Allah Akbar. وَتَحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. Just the thought of gold bricks brought a smile to the faces. Okay, so any form of gold and jewelry. Platinum, people ask, platinum is non-zakatable. Cash is zakatable, of course, whether it's cash, wads of cash under your mattress in briefcases, whether it's black or gray or white, any type of cash, whether it's just digital, things on the screen in your account. Or business stock. Business stock is, this is a big zakatable item. That means anything that is bought with the intention of resale is zakatable. So the doctor, for example, he doesn't have to give zakat on all his surgical instruments in his office or anything. The factory owner doesn't give zakat on the value of the factory machines. Right? Different industries, they don't have to give zakat on their tools of their trade. But a businessman, he will give zakat once a year on the retail value of everything in his entire store, the entire inventory. Anything bought with the intention of resale. So if there's someone who owns like a Walmart, then he'll give zakat on the entire Walmart. But that's a lot of haram stuff in there. Right? A halal Walmart. Right? So, like even Walmart has a liquor department, right? So that would be haram. Anyway, so I give the example about the car lot because it's the closest business here. Everyone sees the cars. So if there's a car lot next door, you'll have to give zakat on the value of all the cars. in his lot that he's selling. And someone thinks that's going to be so much, so crazy, right? That doesn't make sense. No, we should never say it doesn't make sense. You should say, I can't understand it. Then the answer is, yeah, there is something you deduct, and that is what you owe. If he bought it all in cash, he will have to give zakat on the entire value of the car lot. But most likely he didn't. So when he adds up the value of all the cars in his car lot, then he will deduct how much money he owes, where he borrowed the money from, right? Then only after deducting how much money he owes, then he'll give a zakat on the balance. He won't give a zakat on the value of everything without deducting how much he owes. Normally what happens, he will sell the car and he'll get the profit, and then from the profit he'll pay off the loan, and then he'll take some home, right? So business stock. Throughout the history, the greatest people who have supported institutions and done great work were the businessmen, the Muslim businessmen, because they have the most amount of zakat and they have the most amount of barakah. So who pays the most zakat in the world? The richest people in the world. Who are the richest people in the world? Those who Allah Ta'ala grants success in business. There's a whole book, Fadail of Tijara, the virtues of Tijara. The Ansar were farmers, and the Muhajirun were businessmen, and the Muhajirun have a higher rank than the Ansar. Rasulullah ﷺ was a businessman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants barakah in business to those whom He wills, those who do it correctly with the correct intention. Okay, so business stock. Then you have agricultural produce. There's zakat on that. It's a different rate for when the crops are harvested. And then animals and livestock. So on camels, on sheep, on goats, on horses, there's a different zakat, different rate, other than the money. We're not going to talk about agriculture and animals. If anyone is involved in farming or animal husbandry, they can you can send your email to questions@masjid.org. Our muftis can give responses to that. We're just going to talk about gold, silver, and cash in business. Non-zakatable items, all jewelry beside gold and silver, cars and vehicles. So anything that's not on the above list is non-zakatable by default, but certain FIqs are mentioned here. So cars. Cars means personal cars for use and additional cars that a person may have that are not even being used, luxury cars. And just because he collects cars, no matter even if he has a lot of cars, he doesn't have to give zakat on it. Properties. Properties means if he has multiple homes, even if he is collecting rent from those homes, there will be zakat on the rent collected, but not on the value of the home. It's a big difference. The rent collected goes into his account and he's giving zakat on his savings. So he's already giving zakat on that rent that is coming. He doesn't have to give zakat on the value of the home. Like if the whole house property is $300,000, he doesn't have to give zakat on $300,000. He just gives zakat on the income. And yeah, if he has like summer residence, winter residence, or whatever, he doesn't have to give zakat on the property. Properties on lease, household appliances, electronic appliances, none of these things are zakatable. In case you're wondering, like, wow, all these properties are not zakatable? Yeah, they're not zakatable, but they do have a role when it comes to zakat eligibility. So there's zakat liability, zakat eligibility. Zakat eligible is the one who is deserving to receive, and the zakat liable is the one who is responsible to pay. So some people might think that you have to be in one of the two categories. Either you're responsible to pay, and if you're not responsible to pay, you're eligible to receive. No, it's not the case. There's someone in between. There's also someone in between who is not responsible to pay, but at the same time is not eligible to receive. Who is that? That is the person. Why he's not responsible to pay? It's because if you look at the zakatable assets, he doesn't have nisab. So if you ask him, how much gold do you have? None. Silver? None. Cash? I have $4,000. So it's less than the 5,000 nisab. You only have 4,000? Yes. Do you have to pay zakat on 4,000? No, because less than the gold nisab. So is he responsible to pay? No. But is he eligible to receive? He may not be eligible to receive. Why not? He's below the nisab. Because in zakatable assets, he's below the nisab. But in non-zakatable assets, he has vacation properties. He has properties on lease. He has 10 cars. Forget about the appliances, fine. Let him have his appliances. So he has this stuff. So is he eligible to receive? He's not. What are we going to tell him? If he says, he comes to the zakat committee with his bank balance, he says, I have $4,000, I have less than nisab, give me zakat. So we will say that to be an eligible recipient, beyond your basic needs, you have to have less than the nisab. But if you have in non-zakatable assets all of these additional things, then what would we advise you? If you need cash, liquidate or sell some of those things to take care of your needs. So this is the middle category. The guy who's not liable to pay, nor is he eligible to receive, because he has these additional non-zakatable assets. Does that make sense? All right. So gold and silver for personal use, zakatable. White gold and gold content is zakatable. There's gold within white gold too. So when you're talking about gold content, then that means that there's 24 karat is 100% gold, 22 karat, 21, 22, right? And then you have like even 18 karat. So whatever gold, if a woman has, for example, 18 karat gold, so she'll take the weight of that gold item, that gold jewelry, and take the fraction 18 out of 24 times the gold price per gram, and that is the value of that gold in that jewelry. Because she has 18 carats, so it's 18 out of 24, right? That's what, 3/4, right? So, she will give 18/24 of the gold value. So you have to give zakat on whatever gold content is in the jewelry. That's the bottom line. Gold plated, there's no zakat on it because it's non-gold. Cash in hand, bank, coins, notes are definitely zakatable. Okay, anything which bought with the intention of resale is zakat on it, and according to the retail price. There may be a price that you bought it, but there's a price you're selling. So the price that you're selling. Zakat is not compulsory on real estate purchase with the intention to lease out. Didn't I mention this already? Yes. Sometimes people ask the question, I bought a property, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I may build a house on it, rent it out, I may sell it, I may flip it, I'm not sure. So it's not zakatable if you're not sure. It's when you actively are selling it, it's on the market, then it's zakatable. With the intention of profit, then it becomes zakatable. If you're not sure, then there's no zakat. You add it all up and give 2.5% on zakat. Okay, these are more, I'm going to have to go through these things. These debts receivable, this is, I'm going to skip that for now. If you want more detail on those debt receivables, I've spoken about them in the past years. It's now 3:15. So I'll talk about this one though. This is important for more people, for majority of people. See, the concept was, first understand the concept. The concept is that in the past, people would not take loans. They would, unless they absolutely needed to. Everyone would be afraid of loans, would hate loans. The last thing they want to do is, like we were talking about the women today, they don't want to sell their jewelry. The last thing people in the past would take a loan. That's like when there's no way out. Okay. But nowadays, people, the way the culture is, the way the society is, the way the economy is, people all want to spend beyond their means. Right? How is that saying go? People want to buy things that they do not need with the money that they do not have to impress the people that they do not love, right? This is the culture. So if a person, mashallah, not everyone is blessed. The business person has like $250,000 cash, $300,000 sitting with him. He can go and buy a $300,000 home cash, have no debt on his head, no interest, no haram interest, no halal financing, nothing. Will he do that? Absolutely not, he'll not do that. Why will he not do that? He'll say that I'll pay the down payment, I'll get, why $300,000? I can get a $3 million home, right? So he'll get a $3 million home and he'll be in debt for 30 years. So this is the culture we're living in. So if you apply the original formula, is that you take all your savings and then you deduct the debts. If you deduct the debts, whether it's college debt, whether it's credit card debt, whether it's house debt, and whatever is left behind, you give 2.5% of that. If after deducting the debt, you're negative, then you're an eligible recipient of zakat. So, for example, a person has, mashallah, $100,000 in the bank, but if he deducts his house loan for $1 million home and his cars and his credit cards, that even though he has $100,000 in the bank, he's $600,000 in debt, $800,000, $1 million in debt. That debt which is due over 30 years. So what is going to happen? He's going to say that I'm going to stand in line to collect zakat money. I deserve zakat because the Quran says, "Wal gharimeen," those who are in debt, give them zakat money. I'm in debt. So what are you going to say? No, it doesn't make sense. Well, I'm in debt, and the Quran says that wal gharimeen, the one in debt, can receive zakat. So the thing is, this was when people took debts out of necessity. Now you're taking debts for luxuries. Plus, the debt was supposed to be such a burden on your back that keeps you awake at night. Are you tossing and turning? How are you going to pay off the 30-year debt? No, you're only worried about what? The monthly payment. This Mufti who wrote this, inshallah, he said that you can deduct one whole year's payments. I think I would prefer the opinion. It's not my own opinion. Like, who am I to say my opinion? I rule thus. No. But there are other respectable, true fuqaha and scholars who say that you can only deduct the monthly payment. And that really adds up, in my opinion, humble opinion. That if you take this whole year also, many people will not give zakat. Right? Because actually the majority of America will be on the receiving end. Will be mustahiq to receive zakat, eligible to receive. No one is going to be paying zakat. That's just the way the economy is nowadays. That's just the way the lifestyle is. You can't even blame the economy. This is the lifestyle. That we spend more than we have. And we want to, so what do is, you don't, when you take your assets, if mashallah, average person has maybe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, he cannot deduct his whole year payments and his year car payments and his year all the mortgage payments and credit card payments for the whole year. I would say just for that month of Ramadan, whatever bills are due and debt is due that month, you can deduct that from your current savings, and the rest of that you give 2.5%. This is with respect to long-term debts. That's the second one here on the slide. The amount one needs to pay in the course of multiple years, you can just deduct the monthly payment. And the short-term debts, they have to be paid right away. This is like you borrowed money from a family member. You borrowed money from uncle, aunt. You borrowed money from a friend. Or the most embarrassing thing for a man, if he borrowed money from his in-laws, right? So if he had to do that, you have to pay off your brother-in-law, father-in-law, khalas, deduct the whole amount, right? You can deduct the whole amount because it's due short-term, right? This is not a 30-year plan. Yes. Yeah, we said we're not going to take questions, but this has been asked, so we'll take it right now, and then I don't want to open the floodgates again. So the question is about student loans. So the scholars have talked about this. When you're talking about luxury homes, that's not a necessity. Technically, you could rent. When it comes to other things, it's not a necessity. You could buy a used car. Go to the next door used car lot. I have no relation with him. I'm just saying anyone. And you can buy a $5,000 car, $4,000, $3,000 car. But then you want to get the latest model of a luxury, vehicle, and you buy it. You can't deduct that. But is education a necessity or not? This is where it becomes subjective. And the scholars have come to the conclusion: education in this country, to be able to provide for your family, is a necessity. It is a necessity. And the whole system is completely distorted how expensive education has become. And you just go next door to Canada, it's completely free, right? In Europe, in so many different places, the government takes care of it. But over here, because of this, beyond the scope of this lecture, is what's going on with the whole government and how funds are allocated in policing the world, and the Defense Department budget is so much, there's no time to spend on the citizens and all of that. So the education is absurd how expensive it is. But it is a necessity. So the scholars say that it can be deducted. Yes, because that should be the first primary thing you want to pay off. And that is why students who are not having huge amounts of non-zakatable possessions, they would be valid recipients of zakat. Valid recipients of zakat, because they just want to get an education. If they have college debt and then they're signing leases on Mercedes, BMWs and trying to get into big homes, and then they say that, hey, we have this college debt, doesn't work that way. That's why I talked about the person who is not, remember, liable to give nor is eligible to receive. But if a person honestly is fearing Allah Ta'ala and doesn't want to give riba more than a cent more than he has to, and wants to pay off his college debt, and is leading a frugal life, and is trying to get this curse of this debt off his back, which the unjust system has imposed upon him, to acquire that education which he needs to provide for his family, then the fuqaha have understanding of the society's needs and will say that he is zakat eligible to receive. Right? But we are not going to be promoting him. These people, we'll say that try to pay it off as much as you can. If your family members can help you out, there are people who are more needy than you. Allah Ta'ala has given you an education so you can earn. And our deen doesn't teach us to sit back and just collect zakat money. But technically it would be. Right? At least he can deduct it. Even if he doesn't accept zakat money, let him deduct it and not pay. Not have to pay, rather pay his debt first. Okay. So I already talked about this. Debts, deductible liabilities. These are deductible liabilities, outstanding, not future basic living expenses which have not yet been paid for. So these are basic living expenses. When you sit to calculate your zakat, if you have a gas bill, you have all the bills. If you have a business, you have multiple bills. You can deduct all those bills that you have to pay this month, right? Not future. Like somebody said that, I'm planning to go for Hajj and I've saved up money for Hajj. Can I deduct that? You didn't pay for the Hajj yet. How can you deduct it for a future expense? Not for future expenses, things that are due this month. This goods purchased on credit, this is for those who are in business. You have outstanding salaries that you have to pay as a business owner. If he hasn't paid his mahar, you can deduct that. Right? Personal loans, commercial loans, okay. Zakat on shares, I'm going to skip this. Basically, you just have to give zakat on your share value, the value of the share. Business assets, okay. Paying zakat, one should not delay in paying zakat, you should give it on your due date. The intention must be there. I talked about the intention with regard to the young person. If you're paying on behalf of your spouse or children, then you have to get their approval, as I mentioned. I talked about this already, tamliq, transfer of ownership. It has to enter the ownership of the needy person. Okay, you're building a well, this is a big one, with zakat money. Who owns the well? Public, yeah. So if the faqir is not owning the well, you can't give zakat money for a well. Right? If you're building a hospital, if you're building, if it's not entering the possession of the needy person, you can't give zakat money to that. Should we not support these causes? Absolutely. That's why there is a haqqun ma'lumun lisa'ili al-mahrum. There is a right in the wealth beyond zakat. Right? This entire masjid, seminary, all of these things that are built is through sadaqah, nafal sadaqah. So we cannot use zakat funds for these things. The zakat fund has to go into the possession of the needy recipient. So people are using zakat funds for righteous causes, but they're not zakat eligible. They're nafal. Somebody wanted to, I had a discussion with one brother about using zakat money for the parking lot, right? Yesterday we had this discussion. You cannot use zakat money for building the parking lot. Even though this is not any private parking lot. This is a parking lot of the house of Allah. But we can't use the zakat funds for that. Okay, that's what they're talking about. Also, it cannot be remuneration or consideration for services. Like you get some faqir, miskin people and give them some back-breaking labor, like carry all these bricks or something. And after that, you tell them, okay, and then you give them the wages with zakat money. Wow, I gave the wages before the sweat dried on their forehead, according to the hadith of Rasulullah. But yeah, the sweat didn't dry, that's fine. But you cannot give them zakat money. You have to give zakat money to a needy recipient without any service in return. Right? The transferee must acquire possession and become owner of the funds unconditionally. It has to be a natural living person, not a legal entity, right? Okay. Who are the recipients? إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم. This is mentioned in the Quran, Surah At-Tawbah. The poor and needy, those who do not own any zakatable assets nor surplus assets beyond their personal assets that equal the nisab. This is a key thing. You see the underlined word? You should know this by now because we talked about this. They do not own any zakatable assets beyond the nisab, but also surplus assets which are non-zakatable. Remember the person who only has $100 in the bank but he owns the vacation homes. Can he take zakat? No. You tell him to liquidate his properties. Debtors. This is the easiest one. Those who to find is a person who actually is in debt and he owes more money than he has. Liabilities exceed their zakatable and surplus assets. You always have to have zakatable plus surplus. Keep both in mind. The liability, the debts he owes are more than the zakatable and surplus assets. Right? Travelers, this is in the Quranic ayah, fi sabil, where is that? Wabn sabil. Traveler was in the past, they didn't have Western Union, they didn't have quick pay, they didn't have credit cards. So the person may be rich at home, but he is cut off from his wealth in a foreign land. He cannot have access to his money. Right? That's the wabn sabil. With the way money can be transferred today, it's not a problem. However, it is possible that if a person is, sometimes we forget about desolate places in the world. Someone's stuck in the middle of the Amazon jungle or in the Sahara or something. There's no Wi-Fi, right? There's no cell towers, right? He doesn't have a satellite phone. So he's a millionaire at home, but he doesn't have money now. Can you give him zakat? Yes, because the Quranic ayah says, Ibn Sabil, the traveler. Mu'allafat al-Qulub also doesn't apply anymore. In the beginning, Rasulullah ﷺ gave some non-Muslims zakat money to soften their hearts towards Islam. In new Muslims, there's a whole story of the seerah behind this. After the Fath Makkah, the battle of Hunayn, and the spoils of war came in, and the Prophet ﷺ gave to these Qurayshis. But that has been mansukh, been abrogated after Allah gave strength to Islam. Fi sabilillah, this has been throughout the time, the scholars, the mufassirun of tafsir and the fuqaha have understood this to be specifically regarding the mujahidun and not in the literal sense. Because what does fi sabilillah mean literally? In the path of Allah. And what expense is not in the path of Allah? Everything is in the path of Allah. If you take the literal meaning. Which expense is not in the path of Allah? Would I give my wife? No. Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Hatta al-luqmata tada'u fi imra'atik." Even the morsel of food you place in your wife's mouth, it is a source of reward. Fi sabilillah. It is sadaqah too. Everything that you do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if your intention is correct, it could be fi sabilillah. So how is there any limit to the eligible recipients if fi sabilillah is taken as anything in the path of Allah? You understand? So there's no ta'meem here. It doesn't mean anything. It specifically is referring to mujahidun. But what's happening is, this fi sabilillah has been abused, and every single type of thing, people take this ayah and this particular word of the ayah and say, hey, this falls under fi sabilillah. So then they say we are zakat eligible. So this is the window where they come in through, this word. I'm identifying it. This is where they enter, through the fi sabilillah angle. The zakat collectors, this doesn't apply anymore too. This is in the Quran, وَالْعَامِدِينَ عَلَيْهَا. This is when you have an Islamic government, a Khilafah Islamiyya, and they are official zakat collectors on behalf of the Khilafah, that are on behalf of the Amir al-Mu'mineen who are collecting zakat. Then the salary of those zakat collectors would be given from the zakat fund. But if it is done privately through organizations, then they do not fall under amilin aliyah. There's a subtle difference from a usuli fiqh perspective, which we can discuss later if anyone has further questions. I don't want to take more time. But there is a big difference. That's why if any of the aid organizations like Islamic Relief, Helping Hand, ICNA Relief, we invite them here too. They've been here in Ramadan. Now if they say that we have 10% overhead, 20% overhead, 15%. All the salaries, all the marketing, all the web design, all the flyers, pamphlets, all the whatever, web hosting fees, everything you add up, all the stuff, rent. And say 80% is going to the needy people. So that 20% is going for all these expenses. Are those all zakat eligible expenses? No. So if you're giving zakat to an organization that has 10% overhead, you should give 110% of your zakat. So 100% of your zakat reaches the eligible recipients, and 10% is a donation to the great work of Islamic relief, helping hand. They may not say that on their website, but I'm saying give them a 10% and give them a donation. And make sure 100% of your zakat reaches the eligible people. And if those eligible people are actually being given stuff. By the way, when tamleek doesn't mean it has to be cash. You can give them blankets, medicines, food. You take your zakat money and turn it into anything else and give it to them, that's fine. As long as they own it. But if you build a hospital with it, then it's not zakat eligible. Okay? Recipients. The following cannot receive zakat. General welfare projects, hospitals, madrasas, construction. This is directly being used. Construction projects for mosques, hospitals. So what we do here is that we have a scholarship fund for needy students. Right? Since you mentioned madrasa. So what we do is, there are students who cannot afford the tuition. It's $8,000 a year. They have two students who cannot pay the rent, $3,000 a year, and food, $3,000 a year. So they have the meal plan. So they are needy students, and for their needs. So the zakat money is given to them and their representative. That's how the zakat money is discharged, without any overhead and without being used for construction or any other purposes, directly. Okay? The descendants of Abbad, Haris, Ja'far and Aqil, meaning these are the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, zakat is haram upon me and my family and descendants. All right? It's haram upon me and my family. Hassan radiallahu anhu was grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was hungry, little boy, baby. There was a pile of zakat dates in the Masjid Nabawi. He took one and he was eating it, sucking it, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, opened his mouth, took it out, threw it out. He said, "Oh, ya bunayya, oh my dear son, it's haram upon us." Why is that? So that there should be no objection till the Day of Judgment that the purpose of the Prophet ﷺ's nubuwah was to amass a financial empire for his family and children. So that's why Allah made the zakat haram. Case closed, objection closed. Right? This is exactly opposite of what the false prophet Musaylamah al-Kadhdhab said. Musaylamah al-Kadhdhab, the false prophet, when after the Fatih Makkah, he said, wow, the prophet has become so rich, so powerful. So he wrote a letter. He said, I have received revelation from Allah through Jibreel that Allah has said that I am also a prophet and half the world belongs to you and half belongs to me. So his intention for declaring prophethood was, you don't have to read between the lines, right in the lines. He wanted it to earn money. The Prophet ﷺ sent a letter back, Min Muhammadin Abdillahi wa Rasuli ila Musaylamah al-Kadhdhab. From Muhammad, the messenger of Allah and his slave, to Musaylamah the liar, that you are false in your claim. Okay. So that's the family of the Prophet ﷺ. Does that mean, just like I'm saying, we can't give money for general welfare projects with zakat, does it mean we don't support general welfare projects? Of course we do, through sadaqah. What about the family of Rasulullah? Abandon them? Don't care about them? They're not zakat eligible? Absolutely not. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Ali Muhammad. We make dua for the Ali Muhammad. We have to support them through sadaqah if they are needy, not through zakah. And if they're husband and wife, one is Hashmi, then it goes with the father. If the father is Hashmi, Banu Hashim, Banu Ali Rasul, then the children would be. And then when it comes to family members, you cannot give, it's simple, right? There's so many family members. Just think about it like this, up, down, and across. So up means all your father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, paternal, maternal. Going up, all the way up, you cannot give them zakat. All the way down, son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter. You cannot give them zakat. Maternal and paternal. Pota, poti, nawasa, nawasi, beta, beti. You can't give your children. And you can go up. Dada, dadi, nana, nani, whatever. Maternal, paternal, grandparents. And spouse, husband and wife. Besides that, you can. Now besides that, who's left? The closest ones are siblings. Big question. Can you give zakat to siblings? Yes. Second question comes up, follow up. Do you have to tell them it's zakat? No. These are the two questions. Can you give zakat to siblings? If you can give zakat to siblings, you can give to your parents' siblings for sure, uncles and aunts. And then you can give to your parents' siblings' kids, which would be your cousins. And you can give to your, if you can give to your siblings, you can give to your siblings' children for sure, which would be your nephews and nieces. And you can give to your in-laws for sure. Right? So you can give to all relatives, blood and in-laws. Besides parents, grandparents going straight up, children, grandchildren going straight down, and spouse. You can give them zakat money. And do you have to tell them it's zakat? No. You don't have to tell them it's zakat because there's this social stigma like, oh, I'm receiving zakat money. You can just say it's a gift, it's a hadiyah. These are the two questions people ask. But I tell them before these two questions, you should ask the first question you missed. What is that? Are they truly eligible? If they're truly eligible, then you can give the sibling, then you don't have to tell them it's zakat. If they're eligible. How do you know they're eligible? That's the tricky part. The simplest way is if you know that their short-term debts exceed their savings. Even if they have a job. If they're earning, what they're earning, they're spending. Earning and spending. It's coming and going out. That's a very familiar feeling, right? So you earn it, it comes in, it's going out. Oh my God, it's gone. Comes in, goes out. That's what happens to most people. So if they have a huge calamity, that they had a big short-term debt that they owe, and the debt, they can't pay it off right away, and they would love to pay it off, then that falls under al-gharimeen. Those who are in debt, you can give them zakat money, right? Another way is if they are minors, then they are dependents of their parents. If the parents have gold, they can give the minor kids. But guess what? There's a window of opportunity to give zakat. What is that? Kids who are baligh and don't have money. Since they become baligh, what happens? They're not considered a shari dependent anymore. So the father and mother have gold at bank accounts, it doesn't make a difference. What does this kid have? Legally he's a kid. Sharia is not a kid. You see that? He's what? 15 years old. So legally he's just a kid. Does he have money? He doesn't have money. Sharia wise, he's independent. So does he have savings? No. Does he have nisab? No. Is he an eligible recipient? Yes. So if there's a needy person in your family, whether they're abroad or here or wherever they may be, technically they might have some gold at home, more than the nisab. They may have savings just borderline nisab. But if they have kids, then you can give the gift to that nephew. You can give the gift to the niece. Right? This is a practical side to it, to help out. Okay? Non-Muslims, you can give zakat. Employees, prisoners, okay. I think these are, when we have more time, we go through all these scenarios. I don't have time to go through. These are different scenarios where we go through exercises like homework together. I just want to show you, these are stuff that are available on our website, the Zakat Masail calculation. I want to show you the Zakat Calculator. So you can actually do it. This is a live calculator we developed here at Dar es Salaam. Right, it's on our website. I'm done finishing explaining. I'm just going to show you the calculator and that's it. Maybe I'll do some of the Q&A. So the Zakat Calculator, alhamdulillah, has been designed. Right, when you come here, you have an option to select the nisab standard, silver or gold. And this explains here, the nisab Rasulullah established as 20 gold dinars, 87.48 grams, or 200 silver dirhams, 612.36 grams. Scholars have given fatwa regarding the permissibility of using either one. Depending upon which standard you use, the nisab threshold will be higher or lower. Right? Can you see it? Yeah. So if you go silver, then you go down, you'll see the value here. The exact value, I'll tell you. This is down here, $560.74. Okay? Now, if you go up and change this to gold, then the value will be around 5,000. Should be. Let's bismillah. See, change this to gold. This is live, right? Oh wait, gold. Okay. Now, this is the practical. We talked a lot about theoretical stuff. This is practical here. You actually enter your cash on hand. There's a calculator behind here that's going to do the math for you, right? To make it simple. Put in your cash on hand here, whatever cash you have, right? Balance held in bank accounts. Put in all your balance, checking, savings, business. Put it into here. Resale value of shares, okay? All your stocks and mutual funds. Can you guys see it? Should I make it bigger? Okay. Is it more clear now? Okay. Okay, resale value of shares. Put it in here if you have shares. Okay, resale investment property. Market value. Why is it, this is a resale. You buy and sell, buy and sell. You're flipping homes. In that case, market value. Okay? The market value, not what you bought at, but the market value. It could have gone up or could have gone down. Retirement plans. Oh, the big one. We didn't talk about this. Vested 401k. Vested, if it's, Allahu Akbar, this is a big one. 401k, people have 401k. So the reason this is a big question is, if you have money in your account, you have access to it, is it zakatable? Absolutely. If there's money in someone else's account, you don't have access to it, doesn't belong to you, is it zakatable? Absolutely not. Clear. You have the middle guy, the 401k. Who does it belong to? You. Do you have access to it? No. That's the problem. That's why there's so much confusion. Is it whose money is it? It's your money. Whose name is on the account? Your account. When it dies, who does it go to? Your heirs, your estate. So it's your money. Do you have access to it? No. So that's where the whole question comes about the 401k. You won't find that in the classical fiqh books because it never existed then. So that's why, now the question is, there's so many different opinions. All right? So people out there saying there's no zakat on 401k because you don't have access to it. Some are saying other things. The safest thing is, think about it. One opinion is the money is yours, but you're choosing not to access it. If you choose to access it, you will have to pay like 30% tax and 20% penalties, and 50% of it will be gone, and you only have access to 50%. So even if you don't withdraw it, just pay zakat on the 50%. That's one opinion. It sounds good, but there's one problem. The problem is you didn't pay the taxes. The problem is you didn't pay the penalty. Only when it comes to zakat, you're deducting it. What happened? Instead, the entire 100% was reinvested. If you actually do a premature withdrawal, la qadarullah, because of calamity and you need the money right away, and you pay the taxes and the penalty, of course, there's no zakat on the taxes and the penalty because you spent it. What's left behind, that 50% will be zakatable. And that 50% will only be zakatable if you still have it on your zakat due date, unless it's already spent or transferred into non-zakatable assets. Right? But if you did not give the tax, and you did not give the penalty, and the entire 100% is being reinvested, and reinvested every year, yes, there will be ups and downs, but generally over 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to be going up, right? Unless there's some complete catastrophe. So its whole thing is being reinvested, and when it matures, you're getting the full. So that's why the safest thing is that you should to give zakat 2.5% on the entire amount. Just like imagine you have money, you just kept it in one bank account and you said, I'm not going to touch this. It's your money. Same thing, consider this 401k as your money, you're not touching. Then the last question that comes in this is that, okay, whatever I earn, I'm spending, hand to mouth, which is a common feature. But mashallah, the 401k is ballooning, that's great. But this mercy has become a curse for me because if I want to give 2.5% of that ballooning 401k, I don't have that cash in hand. Because I don't have the money. I have the 401k, if it's 100,000, it's 2,500, right? So it's 200,000, it's 5,000. I don't have, maybe the 401k is 400,000. So it's $10,000 zakat. I don't have $10,000. When I spend my money, everything, I only have, 5,000 left. How am I going to give $10,000 zakat? I'm just above the nisab with respect to the cash money I have in my bank. How am I supposed to give $10,000 zakat on the $400,000 401k? Do you understand the question? So the answer would be, just calculate it, put it aside, and when it matures, and when you get it, then you can give for the past years. But how do you calculate for the past years? The formula would be, you would give 2.5% of the value of the 401k on Ramadan 10th, if that's your due date in this year, right? In 2001. Then in 2002, you will give what? 2.5% of the value of the 401k on the due date minus the zakat that you give in the previous year. Because since you already had to give the zakat in the previous year, is it zakatable second time? No. So, right? then the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year. So if you calculate, for example, after 10 years, you'll take the value of the 401k on the date that zakat is due minus the zakat that would have been discharged for the past 10 years. You take that amount, 2.5% of that amount. People say it's so much, it's so much, it's so much. Yes, but think about it. Is 97.5 greater or 2.5 greater? Right? And if you don't want to do this calculation I told you, you want to make it simple, you want to pay more, you can pay more. How you pay more? You just give 2.5% of the entire amount every year. If you don't want to bother adding the paid amount. Do you understand the concept of adding the paid amount and then deducting that? You can do that if you're worried about it being too much. MashaAllah. So, yeah, the second and third and fourth year of your 401k, you will minus the amount of zakat that you paid. Yeah, and remember, zakat, we confuse it with tax. Tax is on income tax, and zakat is not on income, zakat is on savings. So you will not be paying zakat on the delta, the change in your 401k. You'll be paying zakat on the entire value of the 401k. Okay? Yeah. No, if you cannot afford it, there's delaying the zakat is a sin, but in the case of the 401k, if you don't have the cash to pay the 2.5% and you took the effort of writing it down, keeping a record, keeping a Google Doc, right, and giving wasiyah to your children, right, that you have a system, of how to access your email and everything. Upon death, there's a whole system for that too. So they have that they have access to it, and you put in your wasiyah that my 401k, before you guys start enjoying it and fulfilling your khaishat with it and your desires, you have to discharge the zakat. This is my record. Then there's no sin in delay. There's absolutely no sin, inshallah. Okay. Then it says here, vested, right? Why unvested? Unvested is, they want to keep you slaving for them, right? So it's only if you fulfill the conditions you get it. So if you don't fulfill the conditions and you leave, it's not transferable with you. Right, the unvested. So that's why there's no zakat on the unvested portion until you actually get it. When you get it, that's like a gift you got on that day. The unvested portion. The vested portion is zakatable, unvested is not. Okay, business inventory. We talked about this. This businessman, the wholesale value. Gold and silver jewelry, current value entered here. Gold and silver bullion, that's like investment gold and silver, entered here. Debts owed to you. We didn't talk about this. Oh, I skipped the debt slides. In brief, you gave your brother $5,000 loan. When your brother is calculating his zakat, he puts all his assets, and what is he going to do? He is going to deduct the $5,000. He's going to say, this money I owe my brother, so I'm not going to give zakat on it. He's not going to pay zakat on it because it's a liability he owns. It's a short-term debt he owes you. And when you calculate your savings, you're going to say, I don't have the 5,000, I'm not going to pay zakat on it either. Then no one's going to pay zakat on it. It's going to remain non-zakatable. It's going to become unzakatable. So somebody has to pay zakat on it. Who's going to pay zakat on it? The one the money is owed to. He's supposed to pay zakat on it. If you say it's a bad debt, he may not pay me back, again, use the same 401k model. Don't pay zakat on it, keep a calculation of it. When you get it back, then pay for the past years. But the money that is owed to you, you have to pay zakat on it. Because the one who owes you the money, he's going to be deducting it. Okay. Accounts receivable. This is for businessmen. Or if they sold things and people owe them money. Okay. Then you add the total assets. Now you put the liabilities. Short-term debts, you can put the entire amount. All right. This is a family member debt, friend's debt. You need to pay them back. They're not a bank. They're not charging you interest. They just have to run to help you out. You need to pay them back. Deduct it. Don't give zakat money. Pay the debt first, then give zakat afterwards. Number 2, long-term debts. I put in here 1 month mortgage payment, 1 month car payment, 1 month student loan payment, right? Yeah, this is the student loan question. That can be revised. The thing is, you say, how is it revisable, subjective? Some of these things are, because of the nature of understanding the condition. I told you to begin with, there's nothing hidden here. The original masla is what? The whole debt is deductible. It's because of our lifestyle that the fuqaha came up with the difference. There was, in the classical textbooks, there is no concept of long-term, short-term. You're not going to find it. Didn't we cover this? There's no, the whole debt you deducted. But then what's going to happen? Everyone is going to be in the receiving line in America. So the student loan can go either way, short-term or long-term. Okay, and then you have incurred expenses for this month, rent, utilities, credit card, you can deduct that. Wages due to others, deduct that. So you put your total liabilities. Now what does the calculator do? It'll take your total assets and it'll minus your liabilities, it'll give you your total zakatable amount. All right? And then it'll give you your zakat. Right now, since it's 000, it says you're not obligated to pay zakat. But inshallah, when you fill it up, mashallah, it'll be a good amount there. Right? And you'll get good reward for that. Okay? And then, of course, there's no reason to be embarrassed to make this plug. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, many families are not able to pay for their children's education. There are 70 students that need zakat scholarships, $8,000 a year, $3,600 a year for housing, $3,300 a year for food and books, so they can continue to study. So over here, we ensure that we fulfill the ahkam of zakat, ensure that the eligible recipients receive it. So definitely, a portion of your zakat, we would strongly urge you to give to these needy students of knowledge. It'll become a sadaqah jariyah, it'll go towards producing scholars and ulama, you'll get that thawab as well as discharging your zakat. Please, if you are using credit cards, this is another thing, add 3% to cover the credit card processing fee. Visa, American Express, right? MasterCard, they're not zakat eligible. Did you think about that? So if you're paying, you shouldn't do that. Why you want to give them 3% additional? So you can send by Zelle, zakat@masjid.org to avoid any fees. This is a specific quick pay, Zelle, zakat@masjid.org. It says it goes straight to the zakat account. There's a separate zakat account. Yeah, 2.5 thousand. Yeah. And if you write a check, there's no maximum on a check, right? Zelle, yeah, there would be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, alhamdulillah, you can read this whole disclaimer that we do not use zakat funds for directly taking care of all of these things: physical infrastructure, salaries, administrative expenses, non-eligible expenses, right? Alhamdulillah, if you're teaching it, preaching it, we will be practicing it, inshallah, etc. So keep that in mind. Now, the floodgates of questions. Well, what are we going to do about these questions? 4 o'clock. Every year I say, you saw how many slides I skipped? I skipped so many slides. Tabi halam hai. Huh? Yeah, I'm done with this. Okay. One thing is, alhamdulillah, we have a question and answer full-time Darul Iftar with questions at masjid.das.org. If you email your questions, if they're not answered now, if you don't have time, I'm not just leaving you stranded, you can email your question to questions@masjid.das.org. So we have Mufti Muhammad Pasha, Mufti Saad Rauf, and these great scholars. They will be answering the questions. So what time does this session end? Okay, so these are questions, these are coming, subhanallah. Oh, that's it? Okay. Huh? Yeah, questions at masjid.das.org. Yeah, the archive, we have hundreds of fatwa already done, but we didn't post them up because of potential of people misreading, misunderstanding, misinterpreting. They'll read a fatwa about a particular situation and they won't see the nuances of the fatwa, and they'll say, oh, this applies to me, so they'll misapply it. So that's why we didn't publish it. Some of them, like permissibility of COVID vaccine, we published that in Ramadan while fasting, certain simple ones. But other ones we haven't. We're discussing what to do. Maybe we should go through them in things that are more frequently asked and universally applicable. We should start publishing them. But the reason we didn't was because of people read a fatwa and say, oh, that's me, and it's not you. Yes. Yeah, I think the best thing is to diversify your zakat. You should not give it all overseas. If they are needy people local, then you should give them as well. But because they may be family members and others who are extremely needy overseas, you share with them as well. If the people overseas who are rich were discharging their zakat, then they would have been taking care of their local needy people, but they are not, unfortunately. So we have to help out over there too. Okay. So, you want to give me some coffee, inshallah? Then I'll do the Q&A. Astaghfirullah. Okay. So, I'm just... Okay. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sayyid Shah Sahib saying, this means if you have long-term stocks in 401k that you are holding 1 year or longer, do you take 2.5% of the value and pay zakat on it? Yes. You pay 2.5% on the 401k every year, right? Many of these things are going to be things we already answered. Let's see. Saif Shah Sahab. This means, these are all beloved friends. Dr. Saif Sahab. This means gifts given to family members, friends on Eid and special occasions can be sadaqah nafila, correct? Yes, anything given with the intention of pleasing Allah. Why are you doing it? It's based on your intention. If your intention is idkhal surur fi qalb al-mu'min, to give happiness to the heart of a believer, that's sawab. Should my husband be paying zakat on his 401k yearly? Okay, it's covered. Yes. Is it allowed to pay zakat toward the cost of Muslim graveyards in the US? No. It's not. If there is an eligible family member who is bearing the brunt of the cost and he can't afford it, then you can give the money to that son and then he can buy the grave. That's the solution. Okay. On mutual funds or stocks, do you pay zakat on the actual value of the assets or reduce it by the intangible value of the underlying stocks companies? Sayyid Haqzab, you will have to pay zakat on the entire value because you are buying it with the intention of selling it. So it's like a stock in trade. It's like inventory. It's like a business called urud al-tijara. If it's another business, just like three brothers having a business, three partners, and you have a share there, it's not to buy and sell. It's an actual share in the company. Then this whole detail comes in. You reduce it by the intangible value of the underlying. Like the value of the company includes the cash and the inventory, and the value of the company is also what? The non-zakatable part of the company. Then you go into the detail of separating the non-zakatable part of the company and the zakatable part of the company. That's if you are in a long-term business partnership. If you're buying stocks of, Tesla, Google, whatever, and you're buying and selling it, Apple, whatever it may be, then you give zakat on the whole value. Yes?
Yeah, my question is actually related to that. If you invest in somebody's private company where you let's say give $10,000
Yeah.
for shares, you don't have an idea of what the liquid balance is of that year to year. How do you go about it?
Yeah. So that's a more complicated structure where you invest in a smaller business and and it's a long term, you have a stakeholder in the company, you're not buying and selling the share. Then there's a discussion. Those are the slides I skipped. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk about that afterwards, inshallah. If you want a good write-up on that, this is the type of question that I would say send it to questions@masjid.org and we can send you that description. Okay, Mufti Minahjuddin, answer question. Okay. Please kindly explain the mudaraba account practice in the Islamic banks. This is an Islamic finance question, not related to zakat. I can explain mudaraba, but it's going to take a lot of time. And it's really late, we have to prepare for Taraweeh, etc. When do you give zakat? I believe that has been covered, right? Once every lunar year. Student loans and parent plus loans, we covered that. Is zakat wajib for the education fund you kept for kids' education? Yes, if they become baligh, not if they're not baligh. Baligh means hitting the age of puberty. What's the difference between sadaqah nafila and lillah? Sadaqah nafila and lillah are same thing. Lillah means for the sake of Allah, sadaqah nafila is the same thing. Yes? Yes. Yeah, I'll repeat the question for our online audience. That are you allowed to give zakat in food? Yes. Basically, you calculate your zakat. If your zakat turns out to be like you owe $5,000 in zakat, or you owe whatever, $1,000 in zakat. Now that $1,000 you can give a check, you can give cash. With that $1,000 you can buy things. You can buy medicines, blankets, food, and give it to the needy. And when you give it to them, you say, this is yours. Then zakat. Yeah. So I remember, yeah. Like for example, some of my family members, they used to collect zakat money and they would go overseas and they would buy auto rickshaws. And they would give it to the needy person. Now that he has this auto rickshaw, this small taxi, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, then what is he going to do with the taxi? You're going to put him onto work. He's going to drive the taxi and make money. So you're making him stand on his feet, right? So that's the concept. Okay. Nadeem bhai, is the zakat wajib for the education fund you kept for kids? We did that. Nadeem, next one. 2 of our kids are baligh, 15, 18 years old. We have saved some amount for them from few years that they would get as gifts. Should we give zakat for them or they should do it now? This is covered. If they're not baligh, it's not wajib. If they're baligh, it's wajib. And they have to know and they have to make intention. Oh, these questions came in the beginning. Okay, mashallah. Your wakil is on your behalf. So he's saying that these questions were asked beginning. They're not working. Okay. Mortgage payments and car payments. What is this? Can be deducted? The monthly amount only. 401k, mashallah, is covered, Rizvi Saab. Mumtaz. Salam, wa alaikum as-salam. If I have student loans, how does that come into play? We covered this. Okay, that was fast. I wasn't too scared. There's more? Oh, wow. Okay, chalo. We combine all our rents from rental property in one account and use that account for other household expenses, etc., and pay zakat on that account. Is it okay, or do we need to keep rental income in separate account? You do not have to keep rental income in separate account. You can put your rental income into the account just like your paycheck comes, just like your other income comes. Rental income is another income. Put it into the one account and continue spending from that. Whatever is left on your due date, you just give zakat 2.5% on that. Is there zakat on the value of the rental property that you completely own? No. Or just on the income? Yes, only on the income. Can we combine this income into one general account and then pay zakat? Yes, you can combine it. I believe this is rewording of the same question. Sister Khadija Ved, all these are mashallah our regular supporters, listeners, part of our Dar es Salaam online community. So 401k, how much zakat to pay? Alhamdulillah, this is covered. On full amount or deduct the tax and penalty. Safest fatwa is not to deduct the tax and penalty. And to make it more swallowable, yeah, you may deduct the tax and penalty. When? When you do pay it. If and when you pay it. If you choose to withdraw it and do pay it, then of course deduct it. If you're not deducting it, you're not paying it, then don't deduct it. Brother Jojo Swanson. The reason I'm saying the names is because your names are public here, right? And your question is public. So I'm not disclosing anyone's privacy because the name is public and the question is public. And if you're listening and you kind of got distracted when, start prepare your iftar on the side in the kitchen, you know how it goes online world, right? So what's going to happen when you hear your name, you're going to be like, oh, he's taking my name. Then you're going to start paying attention, right? This is what happens in the class. When the students start dozing off, then we ask them the question, right? So this is how we do it. So Brother Jojo, don't feel bad if I'm taking your name. I don't own any gold or silver, nor do I have saved money, okay? My job barely makes ends meet. May Allah grant you more barakah in your risk. I am under a lot of debt from student loans. What can I do to give zakat? What can I do to give zakat? If you want to give zakat, it's not wajib. If it's not wajib, you don't have to give. Make dua, Allah Ta'ala makes it easy for you. Make dua, Allahumma kfina bi halalika an haramik. Wa aghnina bi fadlika amman siwak. Oh Allah, grant me so much halal that I don't have need to resort to haram. What about Nadeem Mughal Sahab? What about the home property tax in Illinois that is coming up at the end of April? If it's due in your zakat month, and it's for that you owe for the whole year, then you can deduct it. If it's due this month, anything that's due that month. Sorry, I may have missed it, but do we pay zakat on savings for a specific item like a new car? Yes, Sister Najma. If you have savings for whatever purpose, if you made it, if you bought the car before the due date, the car is not zakatable. But if it's still savings, it's zakatable. Sister Rukhsana Nazneen, can I make intention on all past money I spend on sadaqah and not specified zakat now as zakat? Very good original question. You cannot backtrack your niyyah. You know, you got emotional, everything, and you gave a lot of money for potentially a zakat eligible cause, but you didn't make the intention of zakat. You cannot go back and make that zakat. It's a good new question. Right, I did not cover this one. Most of these I had covered, this one I did not cover. Okay. There's one situation, which is if you separate your zakat money and put it aside, like physically in a box somewhere like people used to do in the stores, and then the workers, if they're distributing from there, they don't have the zakat money, it's fine. Because you made the zakat money, it's called azlu mal al-zakah. When you separate it, that niyat is sufficient. But if you just give it as sadaqah, nafal, and then you want to go back and change zakat, you cannot. Okay, next question, Aman. If I have, let's say, 20 grand and I pay zakat on it, do I have to pay zakat on the same money again for the next year if I saved it? On the next year, whatever savings you have to pay on it. If you, mashallah, saved it, yes, you will have to pay zakat on it every year you have the savings. AJR, what are the etiquettes, rulings, and how much due diligence you need to go on the matter of giving zakat to extended relatives, friends overseas? Please elaborate, as you cannot ask too many questions. So yeah, you have to make sure. You just have to make sure that they don't have, the biggest thing for the woman is they will have gold overseas, especially Indo-Pak subcontinent. They have a lot of gold, so that disqualifies them. The men, if they're working class in the end, earning, spending, they don't have savings. They would be easier to be mustahiq. And definitely, I give you. It's not a loophole, but it's a practical tip. The whole children angle. If they're baligh children, they're not dependent on their parents. So you're safe to give it to them. Say, this is a gift for so-and-so kid. And then the parents will spend it for the kid. You're safe. You're safe that way. Okay. Do you have to verbalize zakat, or can you give zakat without mentioning to relatives? You tell me, audience. You don't need to. I covered it, exactly. You don't have to mention it. Debts, receivables. Government owes me money. I hope to get my refund soon. Will this expected amount zakatable? No, this is not zakatable. What if someone else, because debts receivable is if you sold them something and then they owe you. What if someone else is going to pay your college tuition and or you didn't start the semester yet? What if what? I'm not sure. The Grand City? What if someone else is going to pay? So what, I can speculate. Speculation would be that if someone else is going to pay your college tuition, can you still deduct it? Maybe they're saying that. Then honorable thing is not to deduct it. Is there a debt? Yeah. I'm confused whether I can use the gold nisab or not. Yes, you can use the gold nisab. You may use the gold nisab. Okay, Rukhsana Mahtarama said, how can you ask your relatives if they are zakat eligible? You should not ask them. You should try to find out on your own if you can. Yeah, exactly. No, you should see. If you have the type of relationship where you can find out, it's better you find out. But if they know you're trying to help them, it depends on the nature of the relationship, and they won't feel hurt depending on how close or far these relatives are. Yeah, you have to make sure that they're zakat eligible. But is it advisable to, if there's no way but to ask them on their face, then fine, go ahead and ask them. Yeah. Huh? Okay. Okay, so there's a fiqh which is black and white, stuff, and then there's like the whole maslaha angle, like what right thing to do, what's better. So we're talking about permissible, impermissible, and then after that you're going to be what's recommended, not recommended. That's a different discussion. So if they're eligible, it's permissible to give them. If they're not eligible, it's not permissible to give them. Now these relatives that the questioner is asking about is they're expecting it, and they're used to it. Every year they want it. They're practically through their actions like asking, demanding it. Should I continue to feed them or should I go for other people? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, those who are the most deserving, لا يسألون الناس إلحافا. They are those who are not going out and stretching forth their hand and begging, but they're hiding their need. If you can find those individuals, they are the most deserving. That's what the Quran says. These persons who are expecting it doesn't make them not eligible. If they truly are eligible, they are eligible. But when you give it to them, you can train them, you can speak to them, you can advise them to work on standing on their own feet, to become, being able to support themselves, help them in that regard. Okay. How about second house on the market for a couple of years? If you're actively selling it, it's zakatable. If you take it off the market, it's not zakatable if you're just sitting with it. Subhanallah. What happened? Okay. This I know about this. Sheikh Joe Bradford. I mentioned, remember I said there's a lot of fatwa out there? He says not to pay zakat on 401k. How do we know which ruling is right? So basically, you can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a. Oh Allah, show us what's the truth as the truth and guide us to follow it. Wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Show us what's wrong as wrong and allow us to abstain from it. Many senior scholars disagree with this ruling. This is very popular nowadays online. You seen it, Rafi?
actually having stake, and thus you don't calculate on the entirety of the value, you calculate on what is actually from that ownership of that.
Like the business one. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't know, have you come across that concept on like of 401k being in that category now?
Yeah, so this whole 401k concept it's an evolving discussion. Okay, yeah, but not being zakatable at all, it's really this hard to swallow, this one. There's a good reminder there. Okay, then any zakat on 401k covered when you're giving zakat to organizations through your company. So we're going to close the door for new questions at this point, and we'll just finish these and give everyone a break. Please, any future questions, you can send it to questions@masjidds.org. We do take them, but questions@masjidds.org. When you are giving zakat to organizations through your company and they have a match 100%, can the overhead cost be covered by the company's match that is being dispersed on your behalf? No. What the company is giving, you don't get the credit for that. Salman Farooqi sahab, what the company is giving, you don't get credit for that. Next one, can we estimate taxes before calculating zakat? If it's due this month, if it's the month that, if you have already paid it, then it's gone from your account. And if you're going to pay it now, you can deduct it. The toys drive in Masjid, can we use the zakat amount to buy toys and give to Masjid? How will we know if they are zakat eligible? No, I would recommend not for the toys drive. If you give 1/3 of your income savings, can zakat be part of this 1/3 or it has to be separate? It could be part of the 1/3 because 33.3% is greater than 2.5%. However, you have to make sure that 33.3% is going to zakat eligible people, or at least 2.5 of that 33. If you're giving 33.3% of your wealth, wow, that's great, 1/3. But you're not giving it to zakat eligible people, your zakat is still not discharged. Because that'll become 33.3% or 1/3 as sadaqah, nafila. There's no zakat still. All right? Ibrahim Asif, brother, please rewatch the okay. Qadiri family. Intention. I made intention 5 years ago that anything I'm giving will be counted as zakat. Do I have to make intention every time I give, assuming the cause is zakat eligible? That's okay. If you make this intention, everything I'm giving is zakat, then it will be zakat, as long as it is zakat eligible. Yes. Allahu Akbar. Majid al-Shafiq, if we have mortgaged property and had rented it out, okay, and bought it for the intention of renting it, still is there a zakat on the value of the property or only on the rent? Only on the rent. Only on the rent. Only on the rent. Usually ladies receive jewelry as gift as dowry from their parents. However, their husband is poor. Can the zakat be given to the husband, or his wife's jewelry will be counted towards his asset? Zakat can be given to the husband if he is poor, even though his wife may have jewelry, because they have separate accounts. In zakat, it's not married filing jewelry. Okay. So each one has their own account. In Jahiliyyah, the woman herself was property. And then in Islam came, she became owner of property. The husband and wife cannot give zakat to each other. They cannot. Remember? It said up, down, and across. Right. Okay. This woman who has the gold, she cannot give zakat to her husband. Right. Okay. Yeah, is marriage a zakatable expense to give to a poor girl's marriage? So who are you giving the money to? Father of the poor girl. Is the father of the poor girl in debt? Yeah, he's in debt. He doesn't have savings. So now you're giving it to him because he is a mustahiq and he's deserving. And with that money, he could invest in a business. With that money, he could take care of his expenses. Or with that money, he's going to take care of the wedding. Now, taking care of the wedding, it's a proper, the zakat will be discharged because the recipient is eligible. But now what he's doing with that money, if he's doing israf with it, that's a secondary problem. But that's not something that we should be encouraging. We should try to create a culture at a macro level where they don't have to be spending so much on their wedding to begin with. Wedding is supposed to be something affordable. But that's a bigger problem with the whole society. At the specific individual level, your zakat will be discharged if the recipient is eligible. Yeah, you cannot pay directly for the food. You cannot pay for all the dresses and all the bakwas and all the other unnecessary expenditure. You cannot pay directly for that. You can pay the mustahiq individual. Okay. Nadeem Mughal Sahab, is there another scholar's opinion to delay zakat and 401k funds for all the past years, i.e. whenever you withdraw them? Yes, we covered this. Salam, can you explain the 401k for past years again? Example, 2010, I had 100,000, 2011, I have 200,000. Yeah, so basically, you pay on that. Okay. You pay zakat on the value of the 401k every year, right? And you can subtract from that value whatever zakat was due for the past years. That's all. So, for example, in 2011, you have 200,000. So you don't pay 2.5% of the whole 200,000. You take 200,000 minus the zakat that you paid in 2010. How much zakat you were supposed to have paid in 2010? 2,500 on the 100,000. So you can take off the 2,500 from the 200,000. All right, so $197,500. 2.5% of that, based on the numbers you gave. Can you please answer? Parents are not zakat eligible, but can you give zakat to the children to pay for Islamic school in America? See, if there are eligible recipients, then you can give them zakat. Then what they do with that, whether they waste it on a shadi and a wedding, as brother asked, or they pay for school education, that's a secondary discussion. Is it better to give them? Is it a worthy cause or not so worthy cause? The fact that they're eligible makes it permissible to give it to them. Now, if they're using it for a really worthy cause like safeguarding the iman of the children, that makes it even better. But this discussion today is, are they eligible or not? Is the zakat valid or not? Right? Beyond that, if they actually have a good need for the money, genuine need, it adds more merit to them to receive the money. Okay? You can give zakat to the children to pay for Islamic school if the children are baligh. Then they're considered independent, even if the parents have gold and silver. We covered this like maybe 4 or 5 times. Bataiye kitne dafa? Huh? Okay. So, okay. I believe, can our Masjid Dar es Salaam leave a message? Mullah Farhan, who is working, or I can do it here myself. Is it how this works? No, I can do it from here. So that the question answer session, the new questions are, we have closed the door for new questions. We have closed the door temporarily on this forum. The other forum is open, which is that questions@masjidgs.org. Okay? I feel good that I cleaned the whole thing out, I'm done. And then we're getting new ones coming in. All right. So after this, Zina Subhani, this is the last one. I'll go up. Can a 13-year-old who is not baligh lead tarawih? Oh my God, we're going into fiqh tarawih. And if a 13-year-old who is not baligh breaks the fast intention, has to do kafara or just qada? Okay, if he's not baligh, cannot lead tarawih. And not baligh, there's no kafara. Okay, now what was there? Is there any question I missed here? Salam, I think I missed, but do we have to pay zakat on life insurance that was inherited? If a person receives this life insurance payment after someone passed away, now there's a whole discussion about the permissibility of life insurance itself. Life insurance, majority of the scholars believe it to be impermissible in haram. So the person who did that did a haram thing. Now that a person has gotten it, received it, huh? Oh, if it's by default, they give you a life insurance, then that's a gift from your company. That's halal. You're not paying a premium for it. Yeah. Then in that case, the recipients, they would have to give zakat on it annually. If they haven't used it or transferred it into non-zakatable asset, if it remains cash in the bank, they will have to give zakat on the life insurance annually, whatever the saving is on the zakat due date. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Subhanallah. Every year I make an intention that this year we're going to finish it up in 2 hours. And then what is it? Subhanallah, 4 times.